Good evening, my dear friend. Welcome, once again, to this quiet space, a sanctuary outside of time, crafted just for you. In the journey that lies ahead, you need not go anywhere, nor do you need to do anything. Your only task is to allow your body to become more and more relaxed, to allow your mind to become more and more serene. Let us begin together, with a long, very soothing, deep breath. Through your nose, as if you are smelling a distant and fragrant flower, gently, for a long moment, inhale the cool, fresh air. Feel this breath as it gently fills your chest and abdomen, bringing you a quiet, full sense of life. And then, through your lips, as if you are blowing on a feather, gently, without any force at all, allow that breath to slowly, flow out. With this exhalation, you can feel all the invisible burdens on your shoulders being set down. You can feel the space between your eyebrows gently smoothing out. Very good. Let's do that one more time. A deeper, quieter inhalation. This time, imagine you are breathing in the eternal silence of the deep blue night sky outside your window. And then, a longer, more complete exhalation, returning all the scattered thoughts of the day to the quiet cosmos, allowing them to drift away with the wind. Excellent. Your breathing has now returned to its own natural, comfortable rhythm. Your body, after these two long, deep breaths, has become softer, more still. Now, allow your consciousness, like a feather, to begin to float on the gentle breeze of your breath, drifting slowly, lightly, upward, away from your room, and beginning our first journey for tonight. Our consciousness, like a single, ancient mote of dust, rides this gentle breeze of time, drifting backward, to a land filled with sunlight, olive trees, and ancient myths, to ancient Greece. You arrive in a small village, nestled on a hillside. The houses here are built of white stone, and in the moonlight, they give off a soft glow, like another constellation in the sky. Our story begins in one of the simplest of these small, white houses. Here lives an astronomer, a man mesmerized by the deep sky above. Now, you are this astronomer. Your room is furnished with extreme simplicity. A bed, a dresser, a desk, and a chair. That is all. You do not need much else, because your entire life seems to exist for only two purposes: to gaze at the stars at night, and then, during the day, to record everything you have seen. You have almost no social life. Because in your view, while gathering with friends and relatives is pleasant, it takes up precious time that could be used to explore the mysteries of the universe. How many more wonders must still lie hidden, up there, behind those distant, shimmering lights? Lying in your bed, just before sleep, you often say this to yourself. And your dreams, too, are full of stars. You long for your soul to break free from the constraints of your body, to float freely into the boundless space, to get a closer look at those distant points of light, like diamonds scattered on black velvet, that make up your life's work. Now, the night is deep. Everyone else in the village has already drifted into their dreams. And for you, the clearest, most exciting moment of your day has just arrived. You rise from your bed and put on your simple robe. You walk out of your small house and feel the cool night breeze gently caressing your skin, making you feel refreshed. You take a deep breath. You smell the unique scent of a Mediterranean night, a mixture of the saltiness of the ocean, the fresh aroma of olive trees, and the various unknown wildflowers from the distant mountains. You do not, as you usually do, immediately raise your head to look at the stars. You just walk, slowly, along the pebble-paved path of the village, toward the more open fields outside the village. You can hear the sound of your own footsteps, mixed with the rhythmic chirping of the small, nocturnal insects in the surrounding grass, weaving together a quiet, hypnotic serenade. You walk to a higher point on the hillside. Here, far from the faint lights of the village, the sky appears even deeper, even clearer. You lie down on a patch of soft grass, which still holds a trace of the day's warmth from the sun. And then, you raise your head, and you look up at that endless night sky that you so deeply love. You see it all. You see the Milky Way, a river composed of billions of stars, like spilled milk, stretching across the entire sky. You see Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, the two great dippers made of stars, hanging quietly in the northern sky. You see Orion, the valiant hunter with 3 bright stars for a belt, eternally chasing his prey across the night sky. Your gaze is so focused. Your heart is filled with awe and ecstasy. You feel that you are no longer a tiny human being. You feel that you are a part of this starry sky. With every breath you take, it feels as if you can sense the distant stars, telling you their ancient, silent stories. You take out a papyrus scroll from your robe, and a reed pen. By the light of the moon, you begin to record your observations for the night. You record the position of each star, its brightness, and the imaginative, mythological connections between them. And so you remain, sleepless, through the night. Until the eastern sky begins to show a pale, fish-belly white. The first crow of a rooster comes from the distant village. Only then, reluctantly, do you put away your paper and pen and rise from the grass. You return to your small white house, hiding yourself from the bustling noise of the day that does not belong to you. And then, you fall into a deep sleep. Day after day, year after year. You have become a lonely wanderer, belonging only to the night. You know the name of every star in the night sky, but you cannot name the children playing at the village entrance during the day. You understand every phase of the moon, but you have missed every blossoming of the flowers in the gardens in the spring. You have savored the scent of every kind of dew at night, but you have forgotten the aroma of fresh bread from your neighbor's oven in the morning. Until that one night. That night, as usual, you were wandering in the fields outside the village. Your head was held high, your gaze completely immersed in the perfect, harmonious arrangement of the big and little dippers. You were not looking where you were going. Suddenly, you tripped over a fallen, decaying log. You fell heavily to the ground. Your robe was torn. A slight, sharp pain came from your knee. You clumsily got up from the ground, patting the dust off yourself. Just then, you heard footsteps nearby. It was your neighbor. He had been startled by the sound of your fall and came out of his house to see what had happened. He helped you straighten your disheveled robe, and then, in a tone that was both concerned and slightly chiding, he said to you, "My friend, why do you spend so much time looking at the stars, which are so far away they are not even real, that you fail to see what is right here, at your own feet?" Your neighbor's words, like a small pebble dropped into the calm lake of your mind that held only stars, created circle after circle of strange ripples you had never felt before. Yes. Your entire life, you have been looking up at the sky. But how long has it been since you have properly lowered your head to look at the real earth beneath your feet, the earth upon which you live? That night, you did not continue your stargazing journey. You returned to your small house. And then, you did something you had not done since you were a child. You lay down on your own bed at night, instead of during the day, and fell into a deep sleep. The next morning, when the sunlight, for the first time, was not a signal for you to go to sleep, but an alarm clock to wake you up, you felt a strange, unprecedented sense of disorientation. You heard the lively sounds of the daytime coming from outside your window. The hearty laughter of neighbors greeting each other, the crisp, noisy chatter of children chasing each other in the alleys. You got dressed and walked out of your small house. Your neighbor saw you and warmly invited you over to his home for breakfast. You sat at his small outdoor table, in his courtyard, bathed in the warm sunlight. The neighbor's wife brought you a cup of hot, fragrant coffee, and a few slices of fresh bread, just out of the oven. You picked up a slice of bread. You felt that its crust was so crispy. And when you put it in your mouth, its inside was so soft and chewy. The warm aroma, a mixture of wheat and yeast, instantly filled your entire mouth. How long had it been since you had tasted such a simple, yet delicious, breakfast? How long had it been since you had shared a leisurely cup of coffee with a friend under the sun? After breakfast, your neighbors decided to accompany you on a proper walk around the village. They wanted you to re-experience the beautiful world of the daytime that they so loved. Together, you walked down the small village road. Friend, can you feel the wonderful texture of the soft earth beneath your feet? They asked you. You lowered your head and noticed that the earth beneath your feet was so soft, and slightly damp. It gently cushioned your every step. You passed by a woman selling fruit from a small stand on the side of the road. She called out to you warmly and squeezed a cup of fresh orange juice for you. You smelled the fresh, pleasant aroma of the citrus. You took a sip, and the cool, sweet juice instantly quenched your thirsty throat. You thought to yourself, yes, the stars at night are beautiful, but you cannot drink their light. At this moment, you felt that the glittering constellations in the sky seemed only half as real, half as sweet, as this cup of juice, so full of the earth's bounty. And so, led by your neighbors and friends, like a child visiting this world for the first time, you began to rediscover, to re-experience, this world of the daytime that you had forgotten for so long. Together, you visited the gardens, admiring the beautiful flowers created by the goddess Aphrodite. Together, you visited the temple of Apollo, feeling the warm and sacred light emanating from the white marble under the sun. Together, you shared a bountiful lunch in the village square, a lunch composed of the best food from each household. You tasted the soft cheese, the juicy olives, and the roasted barley. Every flavor exploded on your tongue with a richness you had never experienced before. As the day began to approach dusk, your friends invited you once more to a special place. Together, you climbed the highest mountain next to the village. When you reached the plateau at the top, the sun was preparing to set below the horizon. You and your friends spread out blankets, sat down, and quietly waited for the magnificent performance that you had missed countless times in your sleep. You watched as the sun generously cast its final rays across the entire sky. You saw the colors of the sky begin to change wondrously. From a brilliant gold, to a warm orange, then to a romantic pink, and finally, to a mysterious, deep violet. In all your years of stargazing, you had never so attentively appreciated this magnificent opening act for the stars. After the last ray of sunlight disappeared below the horizon, your friends began to pack up, ready to go down the mountain and home. But you stopped them. You said, "Now, it's my turn to show you something special." You had them lie down again on the blankets, and together with you, look up at the sky that was, inch by inch, growing darker. 1 star, 2 stars, 3. The shining white and yellow stars began to peek out, one after another, from behind the deep blue, velvet curtain of the night. For the first time, you were not a lonely scholar, but a happy sharer, introducing your friends to this world that you knew so well and loved so dearly. You pointed out to them the names of each star, each constellation. You told them the ancient, romantic myths of gods and heroes that were hidden in the night sky. You saw in your friends' eyes the same light of curiosity and wonder that you had in your own, all those years ago. Your neighbor asked you, "Friend, I understand now why you like to walk at night. But to lie here quietly, under the stars, with friends, isn't that just as wonderful?" You smiled, and you nodded. You realized that you did not have to make a choice between looking up at the stars and keeping your feet on the ground. You could have both worlds. You could explore the depths of the universe at night, and also enjoy the bounty of the earth during the day. You could be a lonely thinker, and also a happy sharer. Now, just allow your consciousness to rest in this final, perfect balance. Feel that complete, abundant life experience, one that can both look up at the stars and keep its feet firmly on the ground. Feel that harmonious, inner peace, one that can both enjoy solitude and share joy. Our journey will continue. In the next chapter, we will travel to a new land, one filled with exotic charm and magic. But for now, in this perfect, tranquil dreamscape, woven for you by the light of the day and the light of the stars, allow your body and mind to find a most complete and fulfilling rest. That complete and abundant life experience, one that can both look up at the stars and keep its feet firmly on the ground, continues to radiate a quiet and warm light within your heart. Now, you feel your consciousness, from that Grecian hillside, slowly, gently, rising upward. You see the small white village below you growing smaller and smaller, until it finally becomes an insignificant point of light among the mountains. You have returned, once again, to that boundless, starry sky you know so well. But this time, you are not an observer. You have become a part of it. You are a tiny, glowing speck of dust, on a quiet interstellar journey. You pass through vast, colorful veils made of nebulae. You drift past ancient, steadily burning stars. Time and space, here, have lost all meaning. You do not know how long you have been drifting. Until you are drawn by a new, unfamiliar, yet incredibly enticing aroma. It is a warm, spicy, exotic fragrance, a mixture of cinnamon, cardamom, and burning incense. Your consciousness, guided by this scent, begins to slowly, gently, descend. You pass through the clouds and see a bustling, ancient city, completely different from any place you have seen before. The buildings here are not made of white stone, but of thick, yellow mud bricks. In the moonlight, they take on a warm, earthy hue. You land gently in a quiet alley of this city. Our new story will begin here. The protagonist of this story is a young boy named Idris. He lives in a large, mud brick house. Here, he lives not only with his parents and brothers, but also with his grandmother and his aunt. It is a large, extended family, filled with warmth and the bustle of life. And his family, for generations, has made a living from an ancient and exquisite craft, making and selling the most magnificent, most beautiful carpets in the entire city. Now, allow your consciousness to become like a gentle breeze, softly blowing aside the beaded curtain that serves as the door to the shop. You can hear the crisp, pleasant, bell-like sound as the countless glass and wooden beads collide with one another. You step inside. You feel as if you have entered a wondrous, hypnotic cave, constructed of color, pattern, and soft textures. The light in the shop is somewhat dim. The air is filled with a very unique, pleasant smell. It is a mixture of the warmth of wool, the fragrance of natural plant dyes, and the quiet, aged scent of ancient wood. There are carpets everywhere. You see the smaller, green and gold prayer mats, hung on the walls as decorations. You see the massive, intricately patterned, deep red carpets, which are too heavy and expensive to be displayed, rolled up tightly and leaning in the corners of the shop. You also see many more carpets, stacked one on top of the other on the floor, forming soft, colorful hills. You reach out a hand and gently brush the surface of one of these carpets. You feel the texture of the wool, so soft, so dense, and yet so resilient. Your fingers sink into it, as if you are walking through a warm, colorful meadow. With your fingertips, you trace the beautiful, labyrinthine curves, woven by the artisans from countless threads of different colors. You feel that the different colors seem to have different temperatures. When you touch the deep red part, you feel a hint of warmth, and when you touch the indigo blue part, you feel a hint of coolness. You feel as if these carpets contain a mysterious, ancient magic. And in this shop, there is one carpet that is unlike any other. It is hung high on the back wall, at the very end of the shop. It is the pride of this family, and also a priceless, family heirloom that will never be for sale. You walk up to it. You see that its background color is a deep, burgundy red, like a fine aged wine. And the entire carpet seems to gather all the colors of the rainbow. There is the emerald green, the saffron yellow, and many more beautiful colors you cannot name. Some of the finest patterns are woven with silver thread, gold thread, and a pearlescent silk thread that shimmers with a gentle luster. In the dim light of the shop, they catch every stray glimmer of light and emit a soft, mysterious glow, like moonlight. In the center of the carpet is woven a magnificent, golden tree of life. Its countless, shining branches extend outward infinitely. And on the branches hang all kinds of plump, enticing fruits that you have never seen before. And in the four corners of the carpet are woven four small, exquisite gardens, each surrounded by an ornate wall. The most wondrous thing is that when you get closer and look carefully, you discover that these four gardens, though they appear perfectly symmetrical from a distance, each have their own unique, vibrant details. The garden in the upper left corner is filled with fig trees. And the garden in the lower right corner is laden with ruby-like, plump pomegranates. In one garden, a few goats are leisurely grazing on grass. And in another garden, a pair of magnificent peacocks are proudly displaying their beautiful tail feathers, which are like emeralds and sapphires. You, just like the young boy of the house, Idris, are deeply mesmerized by this carpet. Your gaze lingers on the complex, exquisite, and imaginative patterns. You feel as if you have been drawn into this two-dimensional, flat world, a world made of wool and silk, a world full of magic. Now, our consciousness will travel deeper into this home. You pass through the beaded curtain that makes its crisp, tinkling sound, and you arrive at the workshop in the back. This is the place where this family creates magic. You see Idris's parents and his older brothers, sitting cross-legged on cushions, working diligently at two large, vertical looms. Their expressions are so focused, as if they have entered a deep state of meditation, where they have forgotten both themselves and the world. Their fingers move swiftly between the long, vertical, taut warp threads. Their movements are so fluid, so rhythmic. You feel that they are not engaged in strenuous labor. They are more like they are playing a silent, complex, ancient stringed instrument, one that requires the engagement of their entire bodies. And those beautiful, vibrant patterns grow, bit by bit, under their fingertips. Idris is standing nearby, watching quietly. He knows that he does not have this innate talent. His fingers are not nimble enough, and his heart is not patient enough. He will probably never become an excellent, carpet magician, like his family members. He often daydreams about his future. Sometimes, he imagines himself as a well-traveled merchant, riding a horse through mountains and deserts. At other times, he imagines himself as a wise astronomer, like in our previous story, one who can understand the secrets of the stars. But most of the time, he is content with the present. He enjoys the familiar scent of his family in the workshop. He enjoys the aroma of the spiced rice his grandmother is preparing for dinner tonight, his favorite dish. And he enjoys sneaking into the shop after school every day to admire his favorite magical garden carpet, hanging on the wall. The night grows deep. The family members have all finished their day's work and have gone to their rooms to sleep. The whole house becomes quiet. Only Idris, because he was too excited during the day, is tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep. And so, as he often does, he decides to get out of bed and walk around the house for a while. He lights a small candle, puts on his light slippers, and quietly walks down the stairs, to the shop that is so bustling during the day, but is now so very quiet. In the midnight hush, the shop feels like a sacred shrine, a place that holds countless treasures. The only light comes from the flickering candle in Idris's hand, and the silvery, bright moonlight that shines in through the single window. The moonlight lands gently on the stacked carpets, making the gold and silver threads emit a soft, mysterious glow. Idris does not turn on any other lights. He just enjoys this mysterious, quiet atmosphere that belongs only to him. He walks to the very back of the shop, to the garden carpet hanging on the wall. He wants to have one last good look at it before he goes to sleep. In the combined light of the candle and the moon, the carpet looks even more magical than it does during the day. The woven leaves seem to be swaying in the breeze. The fountains in the garden seem to be gushing with clear spring water. Suddenly, Idris blinks. He feels that the carpet has actually moved. A very slight, gentle ripple, like a wave in water, sweeps across the surface of the carpet. He rubs his eyes, thinking that he must be too tired, that he is hallucinating. It's time to go back to bed, he tells himself. But when he looks at the carpet again, he is sure that he was not mistaken. The carpet is really moving. It is slowly billowing out from the wall, like a great, sleeping creature, stretching its body. And then, it breaks free from the hooks that hold it, and quietly, smoothly, it floats in mid-air, a few inches off the ground. Idris is completely stunned. He even forgets to breathe. He reaches out a hand, trembling, and moves it forward. His fingertips touch the familiar, soft, warm texture of the wool. It is all real. The carpet has come to life. And then, you see this massive, floating carpet begin to slowly move towards the stairs. Its movements are so gentle, so smooth, like a giant, strange sea creature, swimming through the air. It seems to be inviting Idris, in a silent language, to go with it to some mysterious place. Idris does not hesitate for a moment. He follows it. He follows this floating carpet, step by step, up the stairs. Past the quiet, sleeping rooms of his family members. All the way up to the top floor of the house, to the small landing that leads to the roof terrace. The carpet stops. But it is still floating quietly in the air. In the bright moonlight, the gold and silver threads on it are shining with an unprecedented, enticing light. And then, the carpet slowly unfolds itself before Idris. Idris immediately understands what it means. Without hesitation, he walks forward and sits down, cross-legged, in the center of the carpet, right on the image of that beautiful, golden tree of life. Once he is seated comfortably, he reaches out a hand and gently pats the soft, velvety surface of the carpet. As if to tell it that he is ready. The carpet seems to have received the signal. The next second, it begins to rise from the terrace floor, carrying Idris with it. Higher and higher. Finally, like a great, silent night bird, it flies into the deep blue night sky, which is filled with stars. Idris finds himself riding a flying carpet. He feels that he is being held up by an invisible, gentle force, gliding smoothly through the sky above the city. He looks down and gazes upon the city he knows so well. But from this new, bird's-eye perspective, everything looks so unfamiliar. The streets that are so bustling during the day are now deep in slumber. The rooftops, high and low, are bathed in moonlight, coated in a silvery, mysterious glow. Occasionally, you can see a faint, lonely light from a candle burning in a window. Idris feels as if he is floating above the body of a giant, sleeping creature, one that is quietly dreaming. He feels the cool night breeze gently caressing his face. It feels so refreshing, so free. And so, he lies down. He entrusts his entire body to this soft, reliable, magical carpet. He lies on his back, looking up at the brilliant, starry sky that seems so close he could almost touch it. He feels as if he is being carried by this warm, magical river, drifting slowly down a silver river of stars. He can smell the scent of the real, great river in the distance, carried on the wind. And also the mixed fragrance of the various flowers in the city's gardens. He feels so relaxed, so serene. He could almost fall asleep, right here, on this flying carpet. After some time, he feels the carpet begin to slowly change direction, flying back towards his home. It descends so gently, so smoothly, that when he arrives back on the same roof terrace where he started, he barely feels any jolt at all. He stands up from the carpet. And then, he begins to walk downstairs, toward his own bedroom. And the magical carpet, like a loyal, gentle pet, quietly follows behind him. When Idris gets back into his bed, the carpet settles quietly on the floor beside him. It ripples slightly, once, as if it, too, is taking a deep breath. And then, it becomes completely still. Idris closes his eyes. His heart is filled with a deep gratitude for this wondrous, dreamlike, moonlit flight. In this magical, unique, and quiet afterglow, he finally, with a small, satisfied smile, drifts into a deep sleep. That soft and warm magical carpet is still carrying your consciousness, gliding quietly and smoothly through the midnight sky. You can feel the cool night breeze gently caressing your face, so refreshing, so free. Below you is the sleeping city, its silhouette edged in silver by the moonlight. And above you is that boundless, brilliant river of stars, which seems so close you could almost touch it. Your heart is filled with a deep gratitude for this wondrous journey. Now, allow your consciousness to rise up once more from this flying carpet. You become, once again, a free, shining speck of dust in that sea of stars. You are no longer bound by any ordinary, physical laws. You begin a grander, more ancient journey. You travel upstream against the great river of time. You pass through great empires that have vanished, fly over mountains and oceans that have long since changed their form. Finally, you arrive at a place that is more ancient, more mysterious, than any of our previous journeys. You have arrived in ancient Egypt, that kingdom of the Nile, filled with pyramids, hieroglyphs, and ancient gods. You see, on the vast land surrounded by desert, a river of life, the Nile, flowing quietly under the moonlight. And your consciousness is about to become the most supreme being in this kingdom. You are about to become the sun god, Ra. In the very first dawn of creation, there was nothing in this world. No sky, no earth, no humans, no gods. Only two of the most primal, most eternal existences. One was Nu, the primordial, chaotic, boundless, and still cosmic water. The other was you, the sun god, Ra. In our dreamscape, you are not a majestic, anthropomorphic god. You are more like a pure, golden, warm, and creative cosmic energy. You are light, you are heat, you are life itself. You feel yourself floating on that eternal, boundless cosmic water called Nu. Your light shines upon the surface of the water. You see the water reflecting billions of tiny, glittering points of light, like diamonds, under your radiance. You enjoy this quiet, harmonious interaction between light and water. You notice that at different times of the day, your light and the reflection on the water display different colors. And so, you give yourself 3 different names. When you first rise from the horizon in the morning, you call yourself Kepri, the name of the sacred scarab beetle, symbolizing rebirth and creation. When you are high in the center of the sky at noon, when your light is at its hottest and most powerful, you call yourself Ra, your most central and glorious name. And in the evening, when you are about to sink below the horizon, painting the entire world in soft, sentimental colors, you call yourself Adam, which represents completion and perfection. And so you remain, in this primordial universe of only light and water, alone, for countless, long years. You began to feel a little lonely. And so, you yearned for some companions, beings you could speak with, interact with. You began to create. First, from your own being, you created the wind. You can feel a gentle, dry current of air being exhaled from your mouth. This breeze blows across the still cosmic water, and for the first time, it creates small, elegant ripples on the surface. Next, you created the rain. You can feel moist, cool droplets falling from the tip of your tongue. They fall into the primordial water, bringing with them the first, nourishing breath of life. The wind and the rain, these first two deities, then came together and gave birth to the sky and the earth. And then, from your mouth, you called forth another important deity, Thoth, the god of the moon, of magic, of writing, and of the calendar. Now, this world was no longer just light and water. There was wind, there was rain, there was the solid earth and the vast sky. And so, life began to grow, naturally, from this fertile land, illuminated by your light. You see all kinds of beautiful plants and flowers beginning to poke their heads out of the soil. All kinds of wondrous insects and animals also begin to appear on this land. Finally, the first humans, possessing wisdom and spirit, were also born. Great philosophers, brilliant artists, imaginative storytellers, and skilled architects, they made this land more vibrant than ever before. You were no longer lonely. You took on the form of a tall, human-like figure with the head of a falcon, and you walked upon this beautiful earth that you had created. You walked among these lovely people whom you had made with your own hands. Your light helped their crops grow strong. Your radiance gave the artists and scribes the bright light they needed to create. You were the supreme ruler of this world. And your brother, another great deity, Osiris, was in charge of the mysterious, chaotic underworld that lay beneath the earth. And so, one world, the mortal realm, ruled by order and light, and another, the underworld, ruled by chaos and darkness, operated in a perfect, harmonious balance for many, many years. You appointed a ruler for the mortal realm, the pharaoh, to uphold law and order for you. And Osiris remained quietly in his underworld. But gradually, your brother Osiris began to feel a certain restlessness. He began to long for the bright, vibrant world of light that you ruled. And so, wisps of chaotic energy from the underworld began to seep upward from beneath the earth. You could feel the order of the mortal realm beginning to subtly, imperceptibly, shake. The people of Egypt, whom you so loved, no longer revered you as they once did. They even stopped coming to your temple to offer you sacrifices and prayers. You did not feel anger at this. You knew it was not their fault. You knew that there was only one way to restore order and balance to this world. You had to personally travel to that dark, chaotic underworld, a place you had never set foot in before. You summoned Thoth, the god of wisdom, before you. You said to him, "You have always been my most capable assistant in maintaining order. You created the calendar, you managed the seasons. Now, I have a new, more important task for you. After I have gone, you must, every single night, guard this mortal land for me." After giving these instructions, you began your new, daily, unending, sacred journey. Now, allow our consciousness to follow you, Ra, the sun god, and to fully experience this great journey across the sky. The time is dawn. You are preparing to return to the mortal realm from the dark, chaotic underworld. You feel your long fingers, glowing with a rosy, pink light, slowly reaching up from the eastern horizon. You bring the dawn to this sleeping world. You open your great, falcon-like mouth, and in one gulp, you swallow the cold, setting moon, and all the twinkling stars in the sky. And then, you, in your most magnificent and powerful form, a great, burning, golden ball of fire, leap into the sky. Your light instantly illuminates all the cities and villages of Egypt. You see the sleeping city, under your light, gradually awaken. You hear the merchants in the marketplace begin to loudly hawk their wares. You hear the housewives haggling with each other for milk, eggs, and cotton cloth. You see magicians performing amazing tricks before a captivated audience. You see artists painting beautiful pictures on stones. In the fields, farmers begin to sow their wheat, barley, flax, and grapes. In the towns, children are learning to read and write under the guidance of their tutors. The time arrives at midday. You are high in the center of the sky. You shed your light and heat upon the earth without reservation. The hot air causes the laboring farmers and merchants to return indoors for a brief rest. You see the people enjoying the juicy fruits, grown in the fertile land by the Nile, to cool themselves down. And you, Ra, the sun god, in your own celestial kingdom, are also enjoying a few sweet, juicy figs, and a few clusters of crystal clear sweet grapes. At the same time, you see that under your heat, the great pharaohs are commanding tens of thousands of laborers to build magnificent temples, pyramids, and tombs. You see those highly skilled architects using their rich knowledge and expensive resources to build these great city wonders that will astonish later generations. You also see, in the cool, vast stone chambers, the scribes, with their chisels and brushes, carving hieroglyphs into stone tablets, or writing soft letters onto papyrus scrolls. Hieroglyphs are a form of writing that uses pictures. They have a very beautiful, pictorial, phonetic shape. They are carved into stelae, and painted on walls. These characters are so complex and sacred that only priests and nobles are qualified to learn and use them. And you, Ra, the sun god, with your sharp, falcon-like eyes, are observing all of this with great interest. You discover a very interesting detail about the writing of these hieroglyphs. They are always read in the direction that the figure depicted in the character, usually a bird, is facing. You, as both a sun god and a bird god, are very pleased with this wise, small detail. The time arrives at dusk. You, Ra, the sun god, continue your journey across the sky, slowly moving towards the west bank of the Nile. You see that your light is beginning to grow softer, and warmer. You see in the city of Memphis, the golden rays of the setting sun are gently brushing the roofs of every house. Every household is beginning to prepare their last meal of the day. The scribes, magicians, merchants, and farmers have all finished their day's work and have returned home to reunite with their families. You see that on tables large and small, a bountiful meal is laid out. There are green vegetables cooked with garlic, flavorful, spiced lentils, eggs, and bread. The people drink honey-sweetened beverages with their meals. The dinner tables are filled with the pleasant conversation of families sharing stories, and with happy laughter. You begin to paint the entire sky into a magnificent, brilliant oil painting of pinks, purples, and reds. It is time. It is time to descend below the horizon, to travel to that dark underworld that you must guard all night long. At the edge of the horizon, you meet Ma'at, the wife of the god of wisdom, Thoth, and the goddess of truth and justice. She has been here all day, guarding your solar bark, the boat that will carry you into the river of the underworld. You wave to her in greeting. And then, you climb into your boat, take up the oars, and slowly begin to row towards that dark kingdom that lies beneath the world. When your last ray of light has disappeared from the sky, Thoth, the god of the moon, knows that it is his turn to guard this mortal land. He will, every night, use his pen to record the passage of time, every hour, every day, every month, and every season. And at the same time, in the great Egyptian cities, the bustling streets have all fallen silent. The shining stars and the bright moon provide their cool, gentle light for this world. Parents, in the moonlight, hum lullabies to their children. And Thoth, in his own temple, is studying the profound works of alchemy and astronomy, sharing the magical secrets of the universe with those curious seekers who are also filled with a thirst for knowledge. Men and women lounge in their homes, keeping each other company, telling ancient stories. They will soon fall peacefully asleep. But Thoth will remain awake all night. He guards the order of the mortal realm, and at the same time, with his pen, he weaves the great stories of this kingdom. The stories of how the architects built the tall pyramids. The stories of how the scholars practiced ancient forms of magic. And you, Ra, the sun god, on your own steady boat, are quietly, slowly, drifting down the river of the underworld. And so you continue, day after day, night after night, alternating with the moon god, Thoth, guarding the perfect balance of light and darkness in this world. Now, just allow your consciousness to rest in this grand, rhythmic, and sacred journey of the sun god. Feel the first, newborn light of your rosy fingers as you bring the dawn to the world. Feel the most powerful energy of life from your blazing radiance at midday as you bestow it upon the earth. Feel that magnificent tranquility of a mission completed, as you paint the sky into a brilliant oil painting at dusk. Our journey will continue. In our next chapter, we will travel to a land completely different from this one, a land filled with mystery and wildness. But for now, in this universal, warm, and harmonious order brought by the journey of the sun god, allow your body and mind to find a most complete and serene rest. That feeling of harmonious order, belonging to the sun god, still leaves a golden afterglow in your consciousness. Now, you feel your consciousness, like a free falcon with magnificent wings, circling quietly in the high, blue sky of ancient Egypt. You look down and see the Nile, that artery of life. You see the great pyramids, those miracles of geometry, and you see the small, hard-working people, toiling for their lives and their faith. And then, you flap your wings and begin to fly in a new direction. You fly over the vast, shimmering Mediterranean Sea. You fly over the snow-capped Alps, the very spine of the earth. You fly over the continent of Europe, with its crisscrossing, dark green forests and rivers. Finally, you arrive high above a green island, surrounded by the ocean. You slowly descend. Your feet touch down upon a vast, wild moor, a land completely different from any you have experienced before. This is Dartmoor, in England. You are standing on the brow of a gentle hill. You feel yourself being gently embraced by a boundless, open sky and earth. A cool, yet welcoming breeze blows from a distant valley, gently caressing your face, and rustling the hem of your clothes. You take a deep breath. You smell the unique, fresh scent in the air, a mixture of green grass, damp earth, and some unknown wildflower. You hear the sound of lilting birdsong from the distance. The sound is so crisp, so ethereal, as if the moor itself is singing a song of welcome just for you. You look around you. As far as the eye can see are rolling hills and plains, covered in brownish-green vegetation. This vast, wild landscape is like a huge, ancient patchwork quilt, dotted with small forests and fields of emerald and olive green. And at the tops of some of the hills, you see gray, smooth rocks, protruding from the ground, like the great, exposed teeth of a sleeping giant. These are the granite tors. They are the most ancient, and most magical, presences on this land. For thousands of years, the mysterious legends of this land, tales of pixies and fairies, have all been woven around these silent rocks. Standing here, it is easy to believe that all those legends are true. You take a moment to quietly feel this wild, ancient land. You feel a vast, peaceful, grounded energy, carried on the gentle wind, slowly infusing your body, making you feel as if you are meeting an old, long-lost friend. The grass underfoot is short, and curiously springy. Before you stands one such tor. It is made up of large, rounded rocks. But although their shapes are mostly round, you can still feel, from their rough, weathered surfaces, a primal, unpolished beauty. They are piled up on top of each other, held together by the force of nature, and by the creeping moss that is like a green vein. This tor rises above you, majestically, as if silently inviting you. You slowly walk towards it. You reach out and place your palm on a large piece of granite. You can feel the lingering warmth of today's sun baked into the rock's surface. You take a moment to feel the solid, dependable quality of this ancient material. You allow your body to absorb its quiet, earthy energy. A whisper on the wind prompts you to turn your head to the left. You see that on one side of the tor, the large rocks give way, like dominoes that have fallen, into a lush green hillock. The land there is rich with long grasses, coiled ferns, and clumps of new growth. And among these green plants, you see clusters of gorse bushes, no taller than your shoulder. They have spiky, green leaves, and are crowned with small, bright yellow flowers that look similar to sweet peas or orchids. You can smell the curious, sweet scent of coconut that these flowers emit. You notice that hidden in the gorse are two large, moss-covered boulders. The ground is clear around them, and there is a perfect gap between them. It is as if a portal lies there, warmly inviting you to go through. You make your way to the two boulders. You feel that this place seems to reassure you that what it has to show you is peaceful and wondrous. You know instinctively that this is the start of your journey for tonight. And that this land, Dartmoor, will hold you gently in its embrace. Lightly, evenly, you move towards the space between the boulders. You feel a deep sense of peace sweep over you. Your body feels as if it is being pulled into a more relaxed state. You notice a gentle shimmering in the air. Could this really be a portal? You wonder. As you move your face through this shimmering air, it feels as if you are passing through a cool sheet of pure relaxation. You close your eyes. When you open them again, you realize that you have been lovingly transported to an ancient, beautiful, and magical woodland. You pause for a moment to take in the mystical sight around you. Hundreds of curiously stunted oak trees, adorned in silvery lichen and frilly, deep green moss, surround you. The air is peaceful and heavy with a sense of history and wisdom. This is Wistman's Wood. It is the last remains of the old forest that once covered much of Dartmoor thousands of years ago. You notice the twisted and contoured trunks of the trees, which formed in a much cooler climate. You take another moment to savor this amazing piece of living history, and you allow yourself to connect deeply with the earth. You quietly move through this astounding forest, seeing more and more of the lichen that hang from the branches of each tree like old beards on wise men. As you make your way through it, you notice how any tension in your body is being gently absorbed by your surroundings. You take an even breath in, filling your lungs with the magical air all around. It seems to flow through your body, healing and nourishing you. It encourages any remaining tension to flow out of you and dissolve into this place, which happily takes it, converting it into new growth. You continue on through Wistman's Wood. Soon, you sense that you are being pulled towards the fringes of the wood, where it meets with the open moorland. You allow yourself to move that way, watching the shade of the wood thinning out. As you emerge from the trees onto the moorland, you see that you are in a vast, barren valley. You take in this amazing sweep of land, feeling deeply humbled by it. Rising up around this valley are sloping hillsides, crisscrossed with paths made by animals. The sight draws you onwards. Continuing your journey, you walk through this valley. The further you travel across it, the more you appreciate the raw magnificence of this place. The ground is sloping upwards now, and you are easily climbing it. The slope breaks into the crest of a small hill. Grazing peacefully on it is a herd of wild ponies. They are the natural guardians of this land, and their hoofprints are said to have been found in archaeological digs that date back 3,500 years. You are so close to these peaceful creatures. They are not afraid of you, nor you of them. As you observe them, you begin to sense their energy. Their tangled manes flutter in the breeze, and they blink slowly, lovingly at you. You sense that they are here to guide you. As if by the same magic that pulled you through the shimmering air on the moor, they allow you to join the middle of their group. You notice their beautiful colors: gray, white, chestnut brown, mottled hazel, and almost black. They toss their manes together, and each raises their left hoof. They bring their hooves down simultaneously, and as they do so, you feel yourself lifted above the ground. The ponies lurch forwards, breaking into a canter. They seem to carry you with them, and you watch their powerful limbs as they speed into a gallop. You are galloping with these wild creatures across the moorland. A heart-opening sense of freedom and joy blooms in your chest. You watch the rugged moor pass by, smell the earthy scent of the ground being churned under the pony's hooves, and feel the air whipping around your face. The landscape begins to change. You notice a different kind of forest up ahead. The familiar scent of pine drifts towards you, and you realize that this forest is made up of tall, towering pine trees. As you draw closer to it, you feel the ponies slowing down. Eventually, they slow to a walk, and then finally a stop, right in front of this magnificent pine forest. You thank your guides calmly and begin to move into the trees. This forest is cool and shady. The trees climb high above you, and the ground is carpeted with deep, deep green mosses. You notice the shafts of gentle sunlight that filter through the branches. It is quiet and still here, after the joyous expanse of the moor. As you wander through these unfamiliar trees, you begin to sense the traces of other people. Perhaps settlers that lived here many years ago would have used this wood for their homes or fires. You can almost smell wood smoke in the breeze. It's as if the distant sound of children running through these trees now reverberates through the years. You can imagine them laughing and playing, then perhaps older children gathering them together to return home for dinner. Or perhaps you can imagine people walking here together, savoring the peace and stillness of the forest, stealing special moments with each other on summer evenings when the light is warm and the breeze mellow. As you pass through these slumbering memories held in this great forest, you become aware of how grateful you feel to be here. Then, the sound of a gently babbling stream reaches your ears. You realize that it must be nearby, so you use your senses to wander towards it. The trees start to thin. You can see more and more open spaces, and the sound of the stream is becoming clearer and crisper. You emerge from the forest onto grassy land, and there, a few meters in front of you, is the stream. Shallow but perfectly clear, it cascades and bubbles. You allow your eyes to trace it upstream, and to your delight, you see an old stone bridge. It is short and squat, but perfectly joins this bank of the stream to the other. The stone is rough and worn, surely built in medieval times. As you marvel at the skill and craftsmanship of this sweet bridge, the memories of other settlers come back to you. You see that it's made from the same gray granite as the tors you encountered earlier. As you cross it, you brush it with your hand and feel the lingering touch of thousands before you who have crossed this bridge. The bridge leads you away from the forest. In front of you is a clear path towards open moorland. The small stones beneath you crunch with your movement. Here, you feel just as peaceful and at ease as ever. You sense that you are nearing something magnificent, but you allow your pace to be easy and steady. There is no need to rush in this timeless place. The path curves around and passes through an old stone wall. Here, the rocks have been piled expertly, needing no cement or binding to keep them together. Yellow rings of lichen grow on them, marking their age and the weather they have endured. You pass through the gap that the path makes in this wall and into what would have been a large pasture. You continue through this pasture as it spreads into wide, wild space. Here you notice small objects on the ground, like tiny tors in the distance. As you come closer, you realize that these are flat, hefty chunks of rock that have been arranged in a circle. They stand no higher than your waist, but they feel as important as the trees and tors you have journeyed with on the moor. You feel a powerful sense of reverence as you understand that this is a stone circle, placed here thousands of years ago by prehistoric people. Every stone rises out of the ground purposefully and evenly. Each one has been carefully selected and positioned for a reason that you can only guess. As you reach its perimeter, you slow to a stop. You take in this strange and beautiful sight. Your body naturally takes a deep, slow breath. You feel your lungs expand, and then soften as the air flows back out. For some time, you relish the profound comfort that it brings. You're enjoying this special moment, standing on the edge of the stone circle. When you notice a dip in the center of it, like a little trench or burrow, you move instinctively towards it, passing through the stone circle. Then you realize something wonderful. Nestled in this impression in the earth is a beautiful bed. It is held on smooth oak branches, and luscious moss surrounds it. The mattress is made from soft natural material and clothed in green cotton sheets. The pillows are plump, and the covers are fluffy and inviting. You become aware that your body is heavy, tired, and ready to sleep. So you climb down into this beautiful bed, housed in this impression in the earth. And as you rest your body on the mattress, you give thanks for its support and comfort. You pull the covers and sheets over you, finding them warm and supple. You feel incredibly safe in this special place. The stones of the circle are protecting you and guarding you. The light of the day begins to fade, and as your head sinks into the pillow, you feel your body preparing for sleep. The wonderful memories of Dartmoor hold you as your breathing deepens and slows. You are filled with a sense of gratitude and wonder for this amazing land. Quietly, you allow your mind to be still, and your thoughts to be at peace. You know that the gifts of this journey will still be with you in the morning. So you smile, as you drift off into a blissful and restorative sleep. That absolute sense of safety, of being protected in the center of the stone circle by the earth and ancient magic, gently envelopes your entire being. You feel your breathing become incredibly deep, incredibly steady. Your mind, in this vast and benevolent wilderness, has found its most complete rest. You fall deeply, soundly, asleep. And then, you begin to dream. You dream that you are no longer a formless consciousness, free to travel through time and space. You dream that you have become an ordinary village girl named Hester, living long, long ago. Your name is Hester. You live in a world of kings, queens, and castles, a world filled with fairy tale colors. But your own life has nothing to do with fairy tales. You live in an ordinary village, in a small, ordinary cottage belonging to your parents. Your family is not wealthy. And so, you have no opportunity to go to school, to learn to read and write. But you were born with a heart full of infinite curiosity for the world. You can feel yourself now, standing in the small, dirt courtyard of your home. You are supposed to be doing the chores your mother assigned you. But your attention has long since been drawn to the small path outside the courtyard, the one that leads to the center of the village. You can hear, from the distance, all the sounds of life. The calls of merchants selling their wares. The sounds of artisans, hammering and banging in their workshops. And the voices of the well-traveled, wandering storytellers, who have come from faraway lands, sharing all kinds of wondrous tales with the village folk. You are filled with an immense curiosity for all of this. You are always finding excuses to slip out of the house, and then you linger near these interesting people. You ask them all sorts of questions, questions that seem a bit strange to your parents. You feel that this small, unchanging world you live in, a world made of chores and courtyards, is so very stifling. You long to see what lies at the end of that road. Of all your chores, the only one you truly enjoy is caring for the family's small flock of fat, white geese. You seem to have a special, innate affinity for animals. You can feel yourself now, carrying a small basket of grain, coming to the side of the fence in the backyard. The geese, who are usually quite haughty and will chase and peck at people, become unusually gentle when they see you. They will come up to you voluntarily, and with their flat, orange beaks, they will very gently peck the grain from the palm of your hand. You can feel the strange sensation of their beaks touching your palm, a bit hard, yet a bit ticklish. You love being with animals. You often spend the whole day sitting in a corner of the courtyard, talking to a neighbor's cat that is basking in the sun. Or you will crumble up your own small, precious piece of bread and toss it to the nimble squirrels that are leaping among the branches. You can feel that in these small, silent lives, there is an ancient energy, one that is purer and more full of wisdom than the human world. But, unfortunately, all this curiosity for the world and love for animals cannot bring you, an ordinary girl living in a remote village long, long ago, any real opportunities. You are gradually growing up. And you can feel that the way your parents look at you is also beginning to change. They are starting to expect you to get married soon. After all, you have grown into a very pleasant young lady. They believe you will make a respectable, capable housewife. But Hester, which is you, feels a deep, silent resistance to such a predictable future. To get married, and then, in a new cottage that is no different from the one you were born in, to repeat, day after day, the endless chores that your mother has been doing her whole life. This is not the future you want. Your curious heart longs to one day walk down that dusty road that leads out of the village, to see for yourself what the wider world, beyond the mountains and the forests, is really like. But how can you do that? Everyone you have ever known has lived their entire lives right where they were born. Who among them could tell you how to see the world? Until one day, a kind, mysterious old woman came to your town. She was pushing a small, one-wheeled cart, selling all kinds of dried, medicinal herbs in the marketplace. You, as usual, were deeply fascinated by this new and interesting thing. You lingered by her small cart for the entire afternoon. You curiously asked her the names of each herb, and their properties. The old woman was very kind. She patiently answered each of your questions. You could smell the unique, comforting aroma of the herbs, a mixture of the fragrance of the earth and the scent of the plants. As the old woman explained the magical healing properties of each herb, your eyes sparkled with an unprecedented excitement. This is so marvelous, you thought. To be able to so deeply understand these generous gifts from nature, what a wonderful thing that must be. You thought wistfully, if only I could learn this important art. In the evening, as you were tending to your geese, you saw the same old woman, pushing her cart, leaving the town and taking the small, secluded path that led into the great forest nearby. In that moment, an incredibly impulsive, strong desire seized you. You wanted to follow her. Perhaps you could ask her to take you on as an apprentice, to teach you the ancient secrets of herbs and nature. You thought to yourself, my parents don't really need my help around the house anyway. They would rather I get married soon. Since that's the case, instead of accepting a mediocre future as a housewife, why not strive for a future as a botanist and a healer, a future filled with more wisdom and freedom? This idea was so very tempting. And so, you made up your mind. When night fell, and your parents had already gone to bed early, you quickly packed a little bit of food and a change of clothes into a small cloth bag. Then, you took a lantern from the front step, slipped quietly out of the house, and hurried off in the direction of the forest path. You walked boldly into the embrace of the forest. The lantern in your hand lit the way before you. You had walked this path many times during the day. You had played in the woods at the edge of the forest as a child. But soon, you found that you had gone deeper than ever before. You could hear the leaves rustling in the darkness around you. You could see the moonlight filtering through the gnarled, bare branches, casting eerie, ghost-like shadows on the ground. You began to doubt yourself a little. But you kept pushing yourself onward. You thought, the old woman is so elderly, she surely cannot walk very fast. If I keep up my pace, I'm sure I'll catch up with her soon. You imagined stumbling upon her at any moment. Perhaps curled up by the smoldering ashes of a cozy campfire, sleeping peacefully. But you walked for a long, long time. The path beneath your feet became fainter. And eventually, the candle in your lantern burned out, and was extinguished. You had now come too far to turn back. And so, you could only bravely put one foot in front of the other, using the silvery moonlight that filtered through the canopy, and the feel of your feet, to guess where the clear path, now covered in fallen leaves, might be. You were now deep in the heart of this great forest. You felt that the dark shadows dancing around you were playing tricks on your mind. You truly began to regret this impulsive adventure. But there was no good place to stop and rest now. And so, you pushed onward. Finally, just when you felt you couldn't walk another step, you heard a woman singing. It was a happy little tune, and you, exhausted, could tell that it was coming from somewhere nearby, just around the bend. The trail ahead of you widened. Following it, you stepped into a clearing. In the center, a snug little white cottage sat nestled under a shingled roof. Chickens pecked away around the garden. You saw a wooden rack standing off to the side, on which bunches of herbs were hung drying. Smoke curled from the chimney of the house, suggesting a welcoming fire was ablaze in the hearth. As you gazed upon the cozy scene, dull and tired, you felt oddly like you were suspended in a dream. Blossoms drifted lightly through the air, borne upon sweet breezes. The very trees seemed to lean closer to one another, as if sheltering a secret. From somewhere in the yard, the delicate sound of wind chimes floated towards you. You didn't know how long you stood there, but you were pulled from your reverie by the sight of the old woman you had been following, who emerged from the cottage. The lady saw you and appeared oddly unsurprised to find you in her garden, gazing thoughtfully. The kindly-looking lady stood drying her hands on an apron that was tied around her waist. She seemed to be considering you carefully. You didn't say a word, examining her as well. You took in the woman's long gray hair, tied back loosely, and her well-worn shoes and simple clothing. More than anything, you felt her intelligent gaze appraising you from head to toe. Before you could formulate an explanation for your uninvited visit, the woman nodded as if satisfied. Then, behaving like it was the obvious course of action, she told you to come along inside and have some breakfast. This was the beginning of Hester's, which is your new life. You settled right into life at the cottage. In no time at all, you were sharing the daily chores and learning everything you could about herbs and medicine from your new mentor. You felt very at home, living in the little house in the woods. Each day was an adventure as you slowly came to understand the mysteries of the forest, the habits of the animals, the phases of the moon, and even the scents on the wind. You and the old woman got along quite well. As the weeks and months went on, the wise old lady began to impart greater secrets to you, her young apprentice. You learned that your teacher could interact with nature in such a way that some would call it magic. To her, however, casting a spell was merely understanding the ways of the woods, and how her feminine power tapped into her surroundings. And first and foremost, the wise woman stressed, she always used her knowledge for good. Alongside her, you gradually became a benevolent wise woman as well. Superstitious gossips might have called both of you witches, but the labels of less insightful people didn't much bother you, and you rarely appeared in town. One of the old lady's favorite daily habits was to feed the birds. Most people are suspicious of crows, accusing them of bringing bad luck or, perhaps rightly so, of stealing food. The good witch in the forest, however, was on excellent terms with an entire flock of these intelligent creatures. Each morning, she would scatter some stale bread for them, inviting them to linger in the garden. In return, they brought her small gifts of appreciation, shiny things, colorful things. Sometimes, Hester could swear they brought her secrets that they whispered to her as she walked among them. Her mentor would stand amid the crows with one bird resting on her shoulder and nod as if she were having a conversation. A single crow in particular separated from its flock and stayed around the cottage all the time. Hester came to understand how satisfying its companionship could be. Listening, helping, or just sitting and observing, the friendly bird seemed to be a part of almost everything the wise woman did there at the little house in the woods. There was a special bond between the majestic dark bird and the good witch. The seasons continued in their unending cycle, and one year blended into another. Then one day, the witch told Hester that the time had come when she would leave the cottage in the woods and journey to live with her sisters. She was leaving the cottage to Hester, to carry on her work. The younger woman was nervous about the idea of losing her mentor. After all, she protested, she had so much more to learn. At this, the gray-haired old lady shook her head kindly. She told Hester that she underestimated herself, that she had learned everything she needed to know in order to take her place as the wise woman of the forest. She urged her student to trust herself and what she had become, because she was worthy of this place and its precious magic. The next morning when Hester woke, the old woman was gone. The new mistress of the hidden cottage took her tea out into the garden and watched the clearing lighten as the sun rose above the forest. While she stood there, she grappled with the idea that she was now the woman who lived in this cottage, that she was the witch of the woods. In this way, she watched the daylight brighten the land around her. All of a sudden, she was distracted from her thoughts to see the old black crow, which had landed on a nearby branch, cocking its head to the side. It regarded her. Their eyes met, and somehow, she knew that this was the last time the old crow would be there. Just as her mentor had retired to the comfort of family, the crow would do the same. She scattered half of her breakfast to the faithful bird, and the crow took it daintily. Then with a flurry of its raven-colored wings, it was gone. But if Hester feared being alone, she need not have worried. She didn't realize it, but even as she became mistress of this enchanted hideaway, a new familiar would bind itself to her. A new partnership would be forged. She would not be solitary for long. When her mentor bequeathed her the cottage, the elder crow returned to its flock for good. However, the retiring crow passed the witching legacy on to one of its children. One of the most intelligent, the most sensitive, and the most curious of the old crow's offspring was dispatched with the sacred duty of assisting Hester in her work. To help balance the humors of the woodland, to draw upon its bounty for healing, to create wonder and inspiration where there was none. Those were the lifelong pursuits of the good witches and their companions. This mission, the young crow gladly accepted. It was, after all, an honor. So it was that one morning soon after, when Hester had fed the crows their crumbs and almost all of her avian visitors had taken wing and gone on their way, one remained behind. Perching itself on a stool near her front door, it watched Hester, turning side to side with its shiny black head. Regarding it with a practiced eye, she knew her initiation to the world of wise women was complete. She and the crow would not be separated now. Hester and the crow grew in their wisdom and their friendship as the years went on. Just as her predecessor had noted, the young witch was ready to claim her position as the benevolent presence of the woodland. She had learned so many important lessons from the older woman, and the most important one of all was that the forest was her best teacher. Even as Hester continued the traditions of her mentor, she made her own discoveries, using secrets that she had learned from the whispering voice of nature. Here, far from the interference of humans, the ways of the old forest were at their most powerful. Hester occasionally took her remedies to town, offering relief to more than one ailing grandfather or feverish child. When people lost their direction in the forest, she found ways to silently help them find their footing again. When grieving hearts crossed her path, she tried her hardest to heal them. Through it all, she did everything in her power to protect her secret world and the animals who made it their home. In all of this, the crow was her main helpmate. It delivered messages, surveyed the land from the sky, and kept her apprised of goings-on in the forest. In this way, the seasons waxed and waned, and she and the crow grew older together. But there was one time of the year when the crow always left Hester to her own thoughts. On this evening, it would make an overnight pilgrimage to its flock, because the bird's family was its source of strength. At the time many know as All Hallows' Eve, that moment when autumn reaches its most profound stillness, and humans let loose their traditions to make sense of the dark, that was the night that the crows would meet. At dusk on that day, when Hester had closed her door against the cold and sat rocking by her hearth, the crow would leave its perch and with her blessing, vanish into the dark forest. It would caw jubilantly as it swiftly cut through the thick canopy and into the cloudy skies. Rising up above the tops of the trees, it would flap its powerful, jet-black wings, soaring confidently amid the deepening gloom. Underneath it, a million orange, yellow, red, and brown leaves whispered in unison. Some would be found clinging to their branches for one more hour or one more night. Others were already letting go to make their descent to the forest floor. Then, following an intuition as old as its lineage, the bird would glide to a special place where it knew its family would be found. Diving down again, slicing deftly into the woods, it would gracefully alight on the crumbling stone wall of an abandoned house. This was a place so overgrown with ivy and trees, its paths so long been obscured and erased, that it was quite forgotten by civilization. Any human memories were too long distant for it to be found by people. But the crows were still there. And what a flock they were! A convergence of many families known to each other for time out of mind. A group cemented by the great-great-great-grandparents of the birds who now gathered in this spot. Like a living manifestation of midnight, they gently descended upon the old stone ruin in an ebony blanket. Then, turning to greet each other, these crows of long acquaintance would begin exchanging their latest news. One elder of the flock might relate how she had soared high above the treetops for many miles, observing the little villages, each separated from the other like an island in a sea of trees. She would marvel at the knowledge that these people could live their entire lives within their little towns in just this manner. Humans are so limited in their scope, she might say woefully. A younger, more daring crow would tell its brothers and sisters about the summer journey it had made to reach the edge of the forest and see the ocean. When the land-dwelling bird got there, he would have seen a vast stretch of glittering blue water and encountered many large white gulls. The gathered flock would chatter and exclaim at this wondrous story of faraway places. One very humorous member of the flock would probably tell a story of how he and some friends had alarmed people upon the road by throwing down nuts to crack upon the path at their feet. Then while the people were gathering their wits, the crows might have banded together to snatch bread from their wagons. This story of foolish behavior would, of course, elicit mild disapproval from the older generation of birds who were listening in. One memorable year, Hester's crow shared the most amazing story of all. In service to its mistress, the faithful bird had tried to help a group of royal princes who had accidentally become enchanted and turned into swans. Unable to reverse the spell, Hester had asked her familiar to show their sister a method to break the enchantment. Alas, the crow related, the task she had taken on was to be a long one. The bird would have to keep watch over her for some time. In the years following, the crow would tell them how the story had ended, with triumph and love. At this type of story, there was much expression of admiration among the gathered families. The role of a witch's familiar was a sacred and important one. The valiant efforts of one member of the family brought status to all the rest. When all the year's stories had been told and the greetings fully exchanged, the group always took flight together, rising in a heavy mass of feather. The crows dispersed into the air once again, levitating above the trees and reshaping themselves into a dark mantle. As the wispy clouds hid and then revealed the moon, the individuals in the sea of birds flapped their wild wings and headed across the thick carpet of trees, watching All Hallows' Eve unfold beneath them. Within the forest, the animals were alive to the oncoming chill of winter. They scurried and climbed, they burrowed and buried. They took in the peculiar mixture of dead leaves from the ground and wood smoke from the towns. They made haste to get ready for the oncoming lean season because they sensed it in the air. Soaring over the towns, the crows could observe the strange customs of the people below. There were bright, crackling bonfires to be seen, lighting up the farms and the villages. Cakes and other harvest-time delights were being shared and celebrated. Costumes were being paraded about, partly to hide their wearers from evil spirits and partly to entertain their neighbors. Jack-o'-lanterns grinned their unapologetic and lopsided smiles, illuminating the darkness with their foolishness. All this the crows quietly observed from up high, under the cover of darkness. In the midst of these revelries, they were invisible masters of stealth, creatures of the deepest night, but also brothers and sisters, parents and children, and keepers of a tradition older than those that these villages knew. Just as the humans sensed the turning point in the year, so did the animals. It's just that the birds truly understood that the season's most profound purpose was to reconnect with those who came before and bring them full circle to those who were present. On this night, the flock came home to roost. When they had surveyed their forest territory and the night of All Hallows' Eve was waning, the crows always turned and moved homeward. The night would be quiet now as the human revelers disappeared behind their front doors. The towns extinguished their flames, and the villagers returned to their warm beds, dreaming of tricks and treats. In the forest, the nocturnal animals went about their usual tasks, hooting and scurrying, hunting and gathering. Then some years, the clouds pulled away, and with dawn imminent, the moon appeared briefly at her finest. The luminous glow from the sky might reflect on the waterways below, creating silvery veins that twisted through the sparser areas of the landscape. Looking down upon it, the crows would have a feeling of peace. All was as it should be in the world below. Soon, one small family flock always began to break away at a time, heading off to their own resting place. Eventually, as the reunion dispersed, Hester's crow would smoothly diverge from the remaining birds and glide over the treetops in the direction of her cottage. When the journey ended, the bird would find the garden was still quiet. The crow would alight on the stool near her front door and rest. Dawn would be at the moment when the sun was just beginning to paint the sky. The crow would watch as the heavens filled with all the pastels that heralded the daylight. Blues and grays seamlessly transitioned to yellow, orange, and pink. But with the day, there was a lingering sense of melancholy. The crow always felt that with the departure of night, the most secret places of the wilderness were temporarily lost. The cover of darkness was such a good friend to magic. But Hester did her best work in the sunlight. The crow's most earnest wish was to continue to help her in manifesting the good magic that followed her wherever she went. Until this time next year, the crow would dedicate itself to that task. And now, because these wild places must remain hidden, we will leave Hester and her crow at this point in the story, to live their lives in peace. You must realize, of course, that it's never really at an end. For every enchanted prince or princess, for every distant kingdom and for every quest, there is another deeper fairy tale underneath. The true current of magic doesn't end with a palace wedding or a broken spell. It is a river that never runs dry, and that tale will go on forever. That mysterious forest, filled with ancient wisdom, has left a deep, emerald-green tranquility in your consciousness. You can feel that intimate magic, belonging to the earth, the trees, and all living creatures. But have you ever wondered, in an even more ancient time, before human memory was even formed, how the greater, more fundamental beings, like the sun, the moon, and the sea, interacted with one another? Now, allow your consciousness to rise up once more. You leave behind that medieval forest, fragrant with herbs. You pass through the clouds, and you arrive in a mythological era, one more ancient and more fantastical than any of our previous journeys. Here, the sun and the moon are the king and queen of the sky. They are excellent neighbors. They generously share their light with the land and the ocean. They are beloved by all living things. The Sun King is so handsome and generous. Wherever he goes, he naturally impresses everyone. His golden rays and his warm, bounteous gifts are welcomed by all. It seems that wherever he visits, prosperity springs up. And his ethereal and beautiful wife, the moon, always travels in his wake. When the Sun King has taken his brilliant light away in the evening, she illuminates the dark night sky with her gentle, cool glow. Her cool and steadfast illumination keeps all the creatures of the earth and the sea from being afraid. The sun and the moon are very social, and they often pay visits to their good friend, the god of the sea. Although the sea god's many subjects were happily accustomed to the chill and the moody depths of the ocean, they welcomed the Sun King's brilliant sunbeams at times. For what use was the colorful beauty of the undersea world without a little bit of light to show it off? When the Sun King or the Moon Queen lit the waters, the dolphins and other fish would leap gladly into the air. Then they would plunge ecstatically back into their watery home. These moments in the sun brought them joy. The sun and moon paid frequent visits. However, after countless years of being guests of the sea god, they began to wonder why he did not come to see them. The sun and the moon began to ask each other what the reason for that could be. The Sun King suggested, perhaps the sea god feared that their home would be too warm for him. In response, the Moon Queen wondered if it was too bright. After considering various possibilities, they agreed that the sea god might just be very polite, and that he was waiting to be invited. After all, they had never thought such a formality would be necessary, and they had not suggested a visit. Determined to remedy the situation, they prepared to pay the ocean waters a visit. The sun put on his shining gold traveling coat, which sparkled brilliantly. It created a halo of light around him. The moon put on her most beautiful gown. It was a gossamer alabaster white robe that seemed illuminated from within. Whenever she moved, tiny stars twinkled from the folds of her skirt. Attired in their best, the royal couple ventured forth to the water's edge. Once there, they called out to the little creatures who played in the surf, asking them to summon the sea god. Feeling very important, the tiny crabs, the shining fishes, and the wispy jellyfish floated downward into the heart of the ocean, happy to tell their ruler that his friends were near. While the sun and moon waited, they enjoyed watching the colorful underwater creatures who surfaced to bask in their brilliant aura. Their presence set the water dancing with light, as if diamonds floated on the waves. Soon, the approach of the sea god was heralded by a swelling of the waters. The waves broke majestically and foamed on the beach. The sea god always brought energy with him wherever he went. He arose from the water and called out a jovial welcome to his friends. The sea god was a strong, bearded fellow who wore a heavy gold crown. His shoulders bore a glistening mantle of many-colored shells. He was the very essence of the powerful ocean. Together, the sea god, the sun king, and the moon queen passed a happy afternoon on the beach. They spoke of their latest news, of the events in their respective kingdoms, and of the creatures in the sky and in the waters. When it was nearly time to go, the Sun King got to the point of his visit. He asked the sea god why he had never come to visit them, and what might induce him to do so. The sun admitted that he was wondering if he and the moon queen had unwittingly slighted the sea god in some way, for he had never come knocking at their door. He said they would dearly love to return the sea god's hospitality of many years. At this, the great bearded god smiled kindly and chuckled with good nature. Placing his hand on the Sun King's shining golden arm, he said he would very much enjoy a visit, but that he had sought only to be polite. He explained that wherever he traveled, the water and its creatures had to come with him. And while he did not mind taking them along, he feared that the home of the Sun King and the Moon Queen would be overwhelmed by their numbers. In short, he could only visit if they had a very, very large palace in which to hold the ocean. At this, the Moon Queen clapped her hands together with delight. She assured the sea god that they would expand to fit him. She said that it would be their pleasure to build the grandest, most spacious palace the world had ever known. Surely it would hold all of his dear little creatures, and his friends and family. The Sun King nodded in agreement. They would make it so. The king and queen bid their friend a warm farewell, saying they would send an invitation when their house was ready. With a parting wave, the sea god sank back into the glittering waters of his domain. He looked forward to paying them a visit when the preparations were complete. On their journey home, the luminescent couple discussed their plans. They would build a palace worthy of many guests. It would have soaring ceilings, graceful arches, and large ballrooms. There would be countless bedrooms with enormous windows. Large terraces would make room for the water. It was a glorious vision. Building this grand residence took an entire year. During that time, they were very busy. With great detail, they employed all the creatures of the heavens to realize their vision. When the dwelling was finally complete, everyone who saw it proclaimed it to be the grandest in the world. The front doors of the palace were 2 stories tall. The ceilings of the reception rooms, the hallways, and the ballroom almost seemed to disappear into the sky. The Moon Queen had decreed that murals should be painted on them, mimicking the clouds in the heavens. Fresh breezes floated through the hallways, entering through elegant open windows. Rich chandeliers graced each room, twinkling as if they were made of stars. The king and queen felt confident they had built a home that was fit to receive their ocean-dwelling friend and all his people. When they were ready, the royal couple summoned an eagle and asked him if he would deliver an invitation to the god of the sea. The noble bird gladly agreed. They wrote their missive on a scroll and tied it with a glittering gold ribbon. Then the eagle took the pretty thing in his talons and disappeared into the sky. Flapping his powerful wings, he rose over the trees like a kite. The bird traveled quickly. When he reached the water, he cried out to the ocean dwellers below. A dolphin popped its nose out of the water, nodding joyfully. The giant eagle soared gracefully downward and deposited the scroll in its open jaw. The dolphin then leapt smoothly back into the waters, and the bird soared upwards and disappeared again, returning to the skies over the land. Meanwhile, the sea god received his elegant invitation with delight. He dispatched a massive school of shining fish to spread the word. The sea will be traveling to the palace of the sun and the moon, he told his subjects. All are invited. Wriggling with anticipation, the countless tiny fishes dispersed in little schools. They spread the news quickly and efficiently to all the diverse creatures of the sea. The mighty ruler of the waters attired himself in his most dazzling robe and polished his trident to a high shine. When he was ready, he led the way towards the new palace of the Sun King and the Moon Queen. Following instructions they had shared in the scroll, he first made his way over the sugary white and yellow sands of the beach. Then he ventured through the shady glens of the ancient forests. In doing so, he took the waters with him. He caused them to swell up and over the powdery sands, flowing over land that had scarcely seen the tide before. Then he channeled the rushing sea through the wide paths of the forest. As he did, he floated on his back, marveling at the swaying trees that danced above his head, playing tricks with the light. He was fascinated by this journey because he had never traveled this far onto the land before. When the trees parted, he continued across the grassy plains. The salt water rushed onward, emerging and spreading out over the lush green grasses and waving wildflowers of the plains. Here, he recognized the wide skies that hung over the ocean. He felt some relief to be back under a familiar canopy of blue. Lastly, as he floated to the end of the grassy meadows, he got his first glimpses of the hills. They pushed up from the earth, rugged in some places and gently rolling in others. Then finally, as promised, he saw their house, perched in the foothills. The palace was both vast and majestic. Its towers stretched toward the sky, with myriad windows in each level. Its balconies spread generously outwards. They were welcoming and spacious. He could see that the sun and moon had made every effort to create space for him and for all of his ocean-dwelling creatures. And they had certainly come with him. As the water rushed inland, so too did the fishes, the squid, and the little animals in their shells. The sea-living mammals were there as well. Dolphins and whales followed in his wake. Of course, there were also mermaids, who were very, very plentiful in that time. In fact, the mermaids were probably the most excited of all, because they always enjoyed a fine party. Up in the foothills, the king and queen had been watching for their friend's arrival ever since the eagle returned. Standing on the enormous terrace of the house, they patiently watched in the direction of the coastal waters, happily anticipating this visit. When the blue and green water finally came into view, rushing from the plains, the queen clapped her hands together with delight. She called out to the servants to prepare for their guests. All the doors were opened wide. The god of the sea arrived first, his cloak a vision of shimmering beauty and his trident sparkling in the rays that came from the sun. With him, the cool waters of the ocean, which were soon eagerly exploring the steps and then the veranda. The gentle waves ran smoothly into the ground floor of the house, pooling quickly in every depression or crevice, then rising upward. This created a path for the ocean-dwelling creatures to enter. First came the little tiny ones, swimming freely in the first few inches of shallow waters that filled the ballroom. Like tiny emissaries, the animals quickly fanned out, taking in this strange new place. Glistening in shades of silver and gold, and blue and purple, they soon covered every room in the ground floor of the house. They shimmered over the elegant white finish of the marble floors, which lay beneath the waters. The king and queen stood and talked happily with the sea god while this was happening. They had expected some flooding, and were not bothered by it. The waters did continue rising, however. As the depth increased, larger creatures were able to enter. A massive squid squeezed itself comically through the door, floating awkwardly inside. Crabs and lobsters crawled over the window sills, flopping into the interior of the palace. Naturally, some seaweed flowed in along with everything else. The plants did not like to be left out of the fun. Before long, the queen found that her elegant gown was floating around her like an island of gossamer. Being extremely well-mannered, she acted like nothing was amiss. However, it concerned her a little bit that the water was already more than waist-high. The sea god couldn't help noting her discomfort. He asked if he should stop his people from coming in. But the queen dismissed this notion. She told him all his creatures were welcome and that the house was quite sure to be big enough in the end. Taking her at her word, he continued to allow the water to flow inside. Now that it was shoulder deep on the king and queen, the array of swimming guests became truly impressive. The dolphins splashed playfully into the ballroom and engaged in a boisterous dance. The sharks slid gracefully through the flooded windows, circling the room like crafty wallflowers. Most beautiful, however, were the mermaids, with their multi-hued scales glittering in the sun. They swam gracefully onto the terrace like dancers. They dipped and splashed, some perching on the railing and others floating and sunning themselves. Looking around, the Sun King found himself wondering how any additional sea creatures could possibly exist. It seemed they were all here in his house. The water continued to rise, though. Soon the god of the sea asked if they should perhaps move to the second floor of the house. Or, he added, should I stop my people from coming now? Ever gracious, the king and queen again assured him that there was no need to limit the guests. They did, however, agree that it would be easier to continue socializing from an upper floor. Alas, this solution was short-lived. The royal couple soon found themselves waist-deep in water on the second floor as well. While they continued to insist that their house had room for everyone, they found it necessary to rise upward again, this time to the uppermost floor of the house. At this point, the god of the sea politely excused himself. He had noticed a commotion coming from the ballroom, and he suspected that there was a squabble happening between the jellyfish and the sea urchins, both of which tended to be rather impatient and territorial. Excusing himself, he dove down through the waters to the submerged ground floor and disappeared. The Sun King and the Moon Queen tried to wait for him, but they found themselves treading water and retreated to one of the tall towers that jutted skyward out of the house. Slowly climbing the spiral staircase of the turret, they were only ever a few steps ahead of the rushing waves. Finally alone, they looked at each other with a rueful smile. It was obvious to both of them that, despite their hopes, their enormous house had not been big enough to receive the entire population of the sea. Peeking out the window at the top of the turret, they could see the party in full swing down below. As far as they could see, from their house to the distant beach, there was water covering every surface. As they stood there trying to figure out what to do, the trusty eagle flew by. The Moon Queen called out to him and asked him if he might be able to rescue them from their predicament. Flapping his powerful wings, he hovered near the turret. The Sun and Moon gratefully squeezed through the window and climbed onto his back. Then, pushing off with a mighty surge, the eagle rose into the sky. He flew higher than the tops of the mountains and up through the clouds. As they climbed in altitude, the Sun King and the Moon Queen glanced below them at their palace, which was now just another part of the ocean. Then they both laughed and shook their heads. Looking at each other with a shrug, they sprang from the eagle's back and waved goodbye to him, floating up into the sky. As much as they had enjoyed meeting the creatures of the sea, they were so relieved to once again be where it was quiet and dry. All around them, the stars glittered peacefully with excitement at their arrival. So it was that they decided to stay. After that time, the Sun and Moon still generously shared their light, day and night, with the land and the sea. But they chose to do it from a safe distance. Forevermore, they made the sky their home, while the god of the sea spread out over his own watery domain. And that is how the world has happily remained to this day. Our journey will continue. But for now, in this new, grand, and harmonious order, where everything is in its rightful place, allow your consciousness to pause for a moment. Feel the great, quiet breath of the cosmos itself, and rest. That new, grand, and harmonious order, composed of the sky and the sea, each in its rightful place, quietly envelopes your consciousness. You feel your own breathing, as if it has merged with the breath of the cosmos, becoming incredibly deep and serene. Now, allow your consciousness to slowly descend from this vast, mythological landscape. We arrive on a small, quiet island, one of the southern isles of the continent. Our new story will begin here. The protagonist of this story is a young girl named Mara. From a very young age, she has felt an inexplicable, mysterious connection to the vast, blue ocean. It is a gentle pull, like an invisible, elastic thread. No matter what she is doing, no matter where she is, she can always feel this gentle call from the ocean. She had always thought that every other child felt this same pull. She simply believed it was because she, like everyone else, was filled with an endless curiosity and love for that mysterious and magnificent blue expanse. Mara grew up in a small cottage in a village by the sea. She was raised by a local healer named Louise. Most of the time, Mara's life was content and peaceful. Yet, deep in her heart, she always felt a little out of place, as if she didn't quite belong to this world on land. Only when she came to the seaside, to the edge of the water that called to her, could she find that true sense of peace, the feeling of coming home. On one side of the beach, there was a very mysterious, ancient stone watchtower. It was set within the rocky cliffs that angled their way around the western side of the small island. Mara spent her childhood playing on this secluded beach. Her guardian, Louise, chalked it up to a child's natural curiosity about nature. And so, as Mara grew older, Louise granted her more and more freedom to explore. And every moment of that freedom, Mara spent almost entirely in the sparkling, cerulean waters. She was always swimming and exploring around that ancient tower, a tower that was covered in exquisite etchings of mermaids and underwater life. There weren't many children her age in the village, so Mara didn't have many friends. Sometimes, she longed for companionship and adventure. But when she was at the beach, or swimming in those sparkling waters, she felt like she was surrounded by countless things to explore. Sometimes, she would comb the glittering expanse of sand for the rare and precious blue pearls that the island was known for. Nowhere else in the world had this kind of pearl. They were larger than regular ones, and so very beautiful, shining in shades of aquamarine and sky blue, rumored to be the most wondrous things in all the world, either on land or in the water. If you were lucky enough to find one and pick it up, you could spend hours gazing at its shimmering iridescence, a kind of flickering bluish-green light that shone so brightly, it almost seemed as if it was lit up from within. It was said that magic, real magic, the kind that made kingdoms quake and oceans roar, existed inside of those pearls. They must only exist in legend, Mara often thought, as she had never seen one on any of her countless beach excursions. Neither had Louise, who had seen and done nearly everything that could be seen or done. Louise did have a few of the lesser pearls, the smaller, duller sisters to the magical ones. The healer used them in her poultices and tonics, as even they had healing properties. If Mara were to say anyone was truly her friend, she would say that Louise was. Despite the age difference, or perhaps because of it, the two enjoyed their time together. Over the years, Louise had learned all of Mara's quirks. For example, the only kinds of food that Mara liked to eat were fresh vegetables, plants, or seafood. Louise always joked that Mara was more suited to living underwater than anywhere else. Night after night, Louise sat by her bedside, regaling her with amazing stories. It was Louise who told her of the mermaids of old, which were Mara's favorite tales of all. Perhaps it was those stories that instilled in Mara a belief in the creatures of the deep blue sea, the ones that were also etched on the ancient stone tower that she loved to explore. The ocean was vast, almost endless. Who knew what truly existed beneath the waves? It would be no surprise that these mermaids Louise spoke of loved, cared, wished, and dreamed, just as the humans on land did. When she wasn't at the beach swimming or playing at the tower, Mara was at the healer's shop, helping Louise with the preparation of potions or tonics. She would often stay long into the evening to listen to every story the older woman shared with her. Mermaids weren't the only fantastical creatures Louise spoke of. There were also stories of fairies on land who communed with nature. Every plant, bird, and insect spoke to the fairies, keeping them apprised of all the happenings. "The fairies even know about you," Louise said with a wink, "for they know about everything and everyone." Those stories brought such wonder to Mara. Oh, how she yearned to see the fairies and mermaids for herself, to witness those stories come to life. She would often stay up long after dark, dreaming of such things, of becoming so attuned to nature that she could communicate with all of it. There was no doubt in her mind that these magical creatures existed and could do these amazing things that Louise spoke of. Everything just makes more sense if they were real, Mara thought. To Mara, the healer's stories were more than just tall tales. When she heard them, they tugged at her, just like when she felt that pull to the ocean. It was as though they were imbued with a magic of their own. She never dismissed those feelings. She was sure that there was something magical pulling that tether, and sometimes, she even thought that she could hear whispers spoken to her whenever she was outside, especially near the beach. Mara knew, deep down, that one day her dreams would come true, that she would see those creatures of lore for herself. Her unwavering hope and belief kept her anchored in those dreams. And according to the legend, those dreams came true the day Mara felt the most earnest tug she'd ever felt. As usual, it brought her to the water's edge by the tower. Mara had been helping Louise plant flowers in her garden when it happened. She put everything down and left, making her excuses to Louise, who smiled yet said nothing as the girl rushed across town towards the water. Mara was standing on the rocky shore, right by the tower, when the moment she'd been waiting for finally arrived. She saw a girl's head slowly rise above the water's surface. But this was no ordinary girl. A swirl of purple, blue, and green hair floated around her, and a set of bright emerald green eyes stared into her own. Without even having to see the similarly colored tail beneath the surface, Mara knew, right then and there, that this girl was a mermaid. Transfixed, Mara stared back until the mermaid waved her webbed hand, motioning for Mara to come towards her. Not wasting another moment, Mara splashed into the water and swam right for the creature, her excitement a tangible thing. Upon reaching the mermaid, it was all Mara could do not to stare at her beauty. She was so stunning. The mermaid opened her mouth to speak to Mara, only for a stream of garbled sounds to pour out. As Mara raised an eyebrow, clearly not understanding, the mermaid sighed, and then signaled for her to duck underwater. It was one thing to meet a real mermaid, but what happened next was even more extraordinary. The beautiful, ethereal mermaid brushed Mara's forehead with her fingertip. The second her smooth hand touched the girl's skin, there was a flash of green that pierced through the darkness of the water, and then, all of a sudden, Mara could see and hear everything, and she could breathe underwater. Her surprise and joy must have been evident. The mermaid grinned as she introduced herself as Vera. Mara could only glance around in awe at her surroundings, at the now crystal clear water. She could see far into the distance, and far below her. Each and every detail was rendered infinitely clearer and more nuanced. She could see every sliver of sunlight dancing through the water, each individual scale of every fish in sight, and the myriad glittering blue-green scales of Vera's tail. She was mesmerized by the way every flicker of movement sent shafts of iridescence into the water. And Vera's voice was a symphony of sound, traveling effortlessly through the water. It was simply astounding, more magical than anything Mara had imagined, even in her wildest dreams. Vera waited for a moment, giving Mara time to take in her heightened senses and adjust to the changes. Then, she took the girl's hand in her own and asked her for help. She explained that Mara had been summoned here, to the underwater kingdom, the world of the mermaids, for a reason. Vera told Mara that she was special. She could hear the call of the deep. That was why she had been chosen for this quest. And that also explained why Mara had always felt that inexplicable pull to the ocean. Mara listened, wide-eyed, as Vera began to recount the story of the Mermaid Queen. The queen had lost a sacred heirloom. It was a string of blue pearls, the same pearls that Mara had heard about in stories. The queen treasured this magical necklace, having worn it her whole life. It was priceless, and it had been missing for a while now. At last, the queen had asked for help. She asked Vera to send out a call through the water and over the land. The mermaids knew that only those who loved the ocean and believed in the existence of their species could succeed in getting the necklace back. The call for help had gone out, said Vera, and now, here we are. Mara was the only one who had shown up without a trace of fear or trepidation, and with only wonder and bravery in her heart. Should the girl complete the task and help the mermaid queen, a generous reward would await her. Mara was amazed at this turn of events. It was a quest, a real-life quest. She could hardly believe that she had been chosen for such an honor. She squeezed Vera's hand and beamed at her, telling her that of course she would help the mermaids. Besides, she knew the island like the back of her hand. Vera hugged Mara's neck, her tail swishing through the water as it wrapped around the girl in an embrace. Then she pulled back and opened her hand to reveal the most beautiful thing Mara had ever seen. A real blue pearl. It was smaller than what she'd imagined after hearing all the stories. Vera told her that the blue pearl possessed enough inherent magic to aid Mara in her task. Handing the pearl to Mara, Vera explained that it would help lead her to the necklace. Like calls to like, she said, as is the way of all things. Mara clung to the pearl and nodded, telling the mermaid that she would do her best. After retrieving the pearl, said Vera, Mara, you should go to the tower on the shore. At the base of the tower was a small niche in which a bell hung. It had always been ignored, viewed as part of the tower's enigma, but Mara learned that it was there for a reason. The mermaids would hear the bell, and Vera would know to come for her. The two embraced again, and Vera once more extended out her palm to rest on Mara's forehead, removing her magic so that Mara could return to the land and begin her quest. As Mara felt the magic leave and her body and senses return to normal, she swam to the shore. When she reached it, she waded through the surf, all the while gazing intently at the blue pearl in her hand. It was faintly pulsing with a powerful energy. Mara plopped down on the sand so she could dry off a bit before beginning her search for the blue pearl necklace. The whole experience felt surreal, yet it also felt so right, as if she had been made for this very thing, in this moment of time. She couldn't think of a greater honor than to help the mermaids. And so, with the rest of the day ahead of her, she got to her feet. Clutching the pearl tight in her hand, she began her search. She wasn't quite sure how the magic in the pearls worked, but she could feel the power of the one in her hand, and she assumed that it would increase the closer she got to the necklace. Mara decided that the best course of action would be to try different directions and see which produced the most intense reaction from the pearl. Choosing to go north first, she started to walk towards the center of town. The longer she walked, the less the pearl seemed to throb. Taking that as an answer, Mara then retraced her steps, and this time chose to go east. East took her along the rocky shore of the beach, and it didn't take much time at all for her to feel the decrease in the power of the pearl. Retracing her steps once again, and considering that south would lead her right back into the water, she then went west, past the tower by the cliffs. And sure enough, the pearl began to throb and hum in her hand, its intensity growing by the second. Delighted to be heading in the right direction, Mara sang a jaunty tune while she walked. By now, the sun was hanging high in the bright blue sky. She passed by beachside cottages and brilliant green clusters of palm trees, stopping to eat some of the delicate fruit. It tasted so sweet and juicy. Resuming her walk, it wasn't long before the pearl grew so hot and hummed so loud in her hand that she knew she had arrived at the place where the necklace must be. The area was a small grove of trees, a little way inland, with ample shade. Mara began to comb the area, keeping her eyes peeled for that telltale glimmer of iridescent aquamarine, which would match the color of the pearl she carried with her. She shuffled through the brush and looked along every inch of ground. She circled every tree and searched every nook and cranny. But it wasn't until she turned her face up to look higher into the trees that she saw it. Something shimmering in a bird's nest in a tree close to her. When she got closer, she realized that the necklace was draped over the nest. It had obviously been taken by magpies, who were notorious for being treasure seekers. It made perfect sense. And thankfully, the family of birds weren't home, so she could easily retrieve the precious item. Scanning the tree, she found that there were several branches she could use to hoist herself up and climb to the nest. Mara put the pearl in her pocket. Then she took a running jump to grab onto the lowest branch, swinging herself up and onto it. "Good thing I'm nimble," she thought, as she surveyed the branch above. She scurried up the tree quickly. Soon, she was within reach of the nest. With trembling hands, she reached out and gently pried the necklace from the magpie's nest. Vera had told her of the necklace's beauty, but there were no words for just how beautiful the string of blue pearls really was. And the magic it contained was impossible to ignore. It absolutely radiated power, and it shone so bright that it was almost hard to look at. Mara didn't waste any time in slipping the necklace over her head. As she shimmied down the tree, jumping from the last branch to land on the ground, her knees shook a little, but she remained upright. She touched the necklace one last time, savoring the thrill of power she felt, before she set off for the beach. Reaching the tower, Mara began to circle it, looking for the niche. When she found it, she stuck her hand in and rang the bell just once, knowing that this was all that was needed. Then she went down to the shore and waited. It was only a matter of moments before Vera's head popped up out of the water. Mara made her way through the surf and swam to reach the mermaid. The second she did, she followed the same steps as before, going under and letting Vera place her palm on her forehead so that she could breathe and speak to her. Mara excitedly handed Vera the glorious necklace. As she told the tale of how and where she found it, all Vera could do was shake her head in amazement. Mara had brought back the most precious object in the mermaid kingdom. "They are all so grateful," said Vera. The only gift that the queen could think to give her was one that made Mara's eyes go wide. Vera explained that the queen was offering the girl the gift of a lifetime, to become a mermaid herself, if she so desired. It took Mara all of a second to respond. "Yes," she said. "Yes. To live underwater, to become a mermaid." Mara couldn't wish for anything more. She accepted the offer then and there, and gained her stunning mermaid tail that very moment. It is said that Mara found her people, the mer people, that is, underwater. She finally found her home that day. That is the legend of Mara. The legend of a mere mortal, a human being, helping a kingdom and becoming a mermaid herself. It is a story of finding one's place in the world through the power of belief in magic and things unseen. Our journey is approaching its end. But for now, In this deep tranquility and joy of finding one's true home, allow your body and mind to find a most complete and fulfilling rest. That deep serenity and joy of finding one's true home continues to flow gently within your heart. You feel complete, accepted, and at peace with where you are. Now, allow this sense of fulfillment to become a warm core within you. We are about to begin anew, and for tonight, our final journey, one filled with sunshine and wondrous encounters. Your consciousness, at this moment, transforms into a professional travel writer named Ben. You are used to moving around. You have been to many, many places in the world. But this summer, you are going to a special place you have longed to visit for a very long time. You specialize in writing about beaches, because they are your favorite places. After a great deal of research, you have decided to visit Mallorca, the largest of Spain's Balearic Islands, located in the Mediterranean Sea. And you will be staying in Porto Cristo, a small, quiet fishing village on the eastern coast of the island. You are an excellent swimmer, and you also greatly enjoy diving. And this small fishing village seems to have some wonderful diving areas. This is what first attracted you to it. Now, imagine you have finally boarded the plane that will take you there. You can barely contain your excitement. When the plane reaches its cruising altitude, you open the window shade and watch the clouds outside. The plane is flying smoothly. And the clouds look like large, fluffy puffs of white cotton candy. Moving through the clouds reminds you of how you feel when you are floating in the water. You feel the same kind of lightness, as if your body has no weight at all. For a while, you just watch the changing shapes of the clouds, and you imagine that you are a small, light bird, crossing the sky. You feel a sense of freedom, imagining that you could go anywhere in the world just by flapping your wings. As you imagine this, you feel your body becoming even lighter. When you picture the bird's wings moving effortlessly, your own arms and legs feel particularly light and relaxed. This feeling of relaxation eventually takes over your entire body. As your eyelids slowly fall under its spell, you peacefully drift into sleep. Several hours later, you are woken up by a voice from the airplane speakers. They are about to land. You fasten your seatbelt and rub your eyes. Through the window, you see pieces of land that seem to float on top of the blue sea. As the plane gets closer to the ground, the islands become clearer. You can see flashes of green, brown, and ivory, as the trees, plants, and rock formations grow in size and detail. Your mind and heart are filled with excitement for the journey that is about to begin. A little while later, you get on the bus to Porto Cristo. After a relaxing, 2-hour journey, you arrive at your hotel room. You are pleased to see that the room is clean and neat. The colors are a combination of white, light browns, and light blues. The bed has just been made. You lie down and take a deep breath. The air smells nice and fresh, and the pillows and sheets are very comfortable. The room is not that big, but it is extremely cozy. It feels like your own personal nest. You close your eyes and breathe slowly and deeply, and begin to unwind. As you are relaxing on the bed, you feel a breeze on your feet. It is coming from a sliding door. You get up and step outside onto the balcony. You catch your first glimpse of the gorgeous hotel pool. It is huge. Breathing in, you notice that the air is salty and tastes like the ocean. As you take in the beach scent and the view of the pool, you want to be at the seaside right away. You get ready and leave the hotel. Once you are outside, the salt in the air is more evident. The breeze carries the essence of the ocean throughout the town. You can imagine tiny grains of sand getting tangled in your hair as it is combed by the light wind. It is about 4 in the afternoon, and the sun is just right. It is bright, but not so hot anymore. You feel the comforting warmth of the sun's rays as you make your way down to the beach. The sand is fine and smooth. Walking barefoot feels like being massaged by tiny beads. The water is a clear shade of blue, and some areas even shimmer turquoise under the sunlight. The ocean looks like an infinite pool of freshness and beauty. Admiring the view in front of you, you feel deeply relaxed. As you let the water wash over your feet, you can feel a wave of calm rising through your body. The moment feels so peaceful. You want to stay there forever. At last, you continue to make your way through the shallows. You walk slowly, as the small waves lap over your feet. Then, all of a sudden, you feel a slight tremor in the ground beneath you. Though it only lasts for a few seconds, you are sure that there is something unusual about the tremor. Maybe even something magical. Perhaps it is just your imagination. But then, you see something peculiar out of the corner of your eye. It looks like a golden stick flying past you. Now, you are convinced that something strange is going on. As you squint and look around, trying to find where the stick had come from, you notice something else. A few meters ahead, the water is moving. And these aren't ordinary waves. Curious to see what is happening, you move towards the strange waves. And then, when you are almost there, you see a man emerging from the water. Before you can come any closer, the stranger raises his hand in a commanding gesture, telling you to stop. The man has a peculiar look. He is middle-aged, muscular, and taller than average. And he has a long, tangled beard. A moment later, the man goes underwater. You can see the surface churning vigorously. You want to get a closer look and see what is going on, but remembering the man's gesture, you continue to keep your distance. After a few seconds, the water begins to settle. When it is completely still, the man emerges again and signals to you to come closer. You walk forward, and as the sea becomes gradually deeper, you have to swim to reach the stranger. The water around the man is tranquil, and it also looks somewhat different, like it is glowing slightly. There seem to be actual ripples forming and vibrating around his presence. Perhaps your eyes are playing a trick on you. But before you can decide, the stranger speaks to you. "I'm in need of your help, young man," the stranger says. His eyes are the color of the ocean. They seem calm, like the surrounding waters. But his expression looks troubled. "A very important possession of mine has gone missing," the man continues, "and I need you to help me find it. It is my golden trident, my most powerful protection against sea monsters." At first, you think that this is a joke. But then you remember the golden stick that you had seen flying past you. You ask the stranger why he owns a trident. The man looks you in the eye and replies, "I am Poseidon, god of the sea." You gape in amazement. Here, standing right in front of you, is a man who claims to be a Greek god. Poseidon explains that as the god of the sea, he has command over water. Every sea creature obeys him. To prove this, he raises his right arm. As he does this, a column of water emerges from the ocean. Then, Poseidon moves his arm in a circular motion. The column follows his movements, and the water forms a ring. When he stops moving his arm, a perfect hoop of water is floating above the sea. You gasp. But that isn't all. Poseidon then makes a peculiar sound. A couple of seconds later, you spot a fin emerging from the water a few meters out. It is a dolphin. The dolphin swims fast, and when it is next to Poseidon, it leaps into the air and through the water hoop. It then remains by Poseidon's side, as though greeting an old friend. As Poseidon strokes the dolphin's head, he explains what it means to be the god of the sea. One of his duties is to protect people from sea monsters. He has just finished dealing with a group of them. Unfortunately, during this encounter, the trident had flown out of his grasp. Poseidon can't leave this spot, because he has to keep an eye out for more. Besides, there are also other important tasks that he needs to take care of in the water. His work as god of the sea keeps him busy. This is why he needs your help to find his trident. For a moment, you are speechless. The man really is Poseidon, the ancient god of myth and legend. You remember what you had seen earlier, a golden stick flying in the air. When you mention this, Poseidon nods. Whenever the trident isn't in his hands, it turns into a golden staff that almost looks like a regular stick. The god seems thoughtful as he looks at you. Then he asks, "What is your name, young man?" You reply that your name is Benjamin, or Ben to his friends. Poseidon smiles and says, "Ben, I can offer you something in return for your help. It will be of great value for your work and travels. There is a magical parchment that contains a map of this whole planet and its waters. You just need to tap on the specific water that you want to visit, and it will take you there in an instant." Poseidon puts his hand in the sea and pulls out the magical map. He tells you to place the tip of your right index finger wherever you want to go. You have been to Hawaii several times, so you think it would be an easy place to confirm the parchment's powers. You carefully tap your finger on the shores of Honolulu. In an instant, you feel your body being smoothly transported to the turquoise waters you know so well. You have been there so many times that the landscape is unmistakable. Golden sand, palm trees, the rise and fall of lush hills in the distance. Completely awestruck, you realize that Poseidon is telling the truth. The parchment really does have magical powers. After tapping the map once again, you find yourself instantly transported back to the beach at Porto Cristo. The journey is so quick and smooth, it is as though you'd never left. You thank Poseidon for offering you this exceptionally valuable gift. It will be so useful for your future travels. And of course, you agree to help Poseidon with his search for the trident. The god of the sea explains that you wouldn't have to do it alone. Because of the importance of the mission, you will be helped by a special creature. Her name is Crystal. She is a fish when she is in the water, but turns into a bright firefly when she is in the air. Poseidon explains that Crystal has a special talent for finding precious objects. She will let you know where to look for the trident, and she won't stop until they find it. In that moment, a beautiful fish appears in the water. She is as clear as the ocean, but she also has touches of emerald green and turquoise blue on her scales and fins. Somehow, she even glows in the water. The beauty of her fish form is hypnotizing. As Crystal rises to the surface and comes out of the water, she swiftly transforms into a mesmerizing firefly. Her wings are thin but strong at the same time. She can fly high and fast. And the most beautiful part of her is the light that she emits. It is bright but not dazzling. It is a warm and reassuring glow that makes you feel like you aren't alone on this journey. You sense that Crystal is more powerful than she looks, and you know in your heart that you will be safe if you follow her magnificent colors wherever she goes. You walk back toward the shore, with Crystal flying by your side. When you get to the beach, Crystal flies quickly to the far end and hovers in midair. This is where you have to start looking for the trident. But with everything that has happened this afternoon, you are starting to feel tired. You just need a second of rest. You lie down on the beach and feel your head and neck sinking into the warm sand. Then your back, your arms, and then your legs and feet. The sand molds to the shape of your body. Even the smallest grain of sand seems to be massaging your tired muscles. You take a deep breath in and let the fresh and salty ocean breeze fill your lungs. As you exhale, you imagine all the tiredness leaving your body. Crystal comes toward you, her firefly wings shining in the sunlight. She seems to understand that you need a brief moment of rest. She flies over your forehead and hovers there, glowing warmly and calmly. You can feel the glow spreading through your face and head. There is something special about Crystal's glow. It makes you feel like every thought is leaving your mind as it fills with pure relaxation. You breathe slowly and deeply, feeling completely at ease. Next, Crystal hovers over your stomach. Your belly is rumbling, and she can tell that you are hungry. But somehow, she manages to create a blanket of warm glow that covers your stomach. While she does this, your mind is filled with images of your favorite food. They feel so real that you can taste delicious fruit on your tongue, and your belly is starting to feel full. Just as you are beginning to feel thirsty, a fresh river of water seems to flow through your throat and body. You feel so relaxed now that you aren't tired, hungry, or thirsty. You don't know how, but thanks to Crystal, you are feeling completely rejuvenated. You take a deep breath as you slowly get to your feet. When you thank Crystal, she almost seems to have understood you, as her wings glow more brightly. Feeling ready to walk on, you continue along the beach with Crystal leading the way. You are wearing sandals, and with each step, you can feel the smooth sand moving through your toes. After walking a little further along the shore, you follow Crystal into a dense area of trees and other plants. As you step into the shade, you note how dark it is inside the grove. You can't see much at first, but this almost doesn't matter to you. The little forest is full of herbal scents. You feel like you are swimming in a warm cup of calming tea. Closing your eyes, you breathe in deeply. You don't want to miss any of those soothing scents. When you open your eyes, you see that Crystal is glowing brighter than ever. Feeling calm and relaxed, you follow the magical firefly as she makes her way through the woods. You and Crystal carefully look for the golden staff in the sand and in the lower plants and bushes. Then you search the taller trees, like the live oaks and palms. Crystal flies to the highest parts and moves through the branches while you search from the ground. Sometimes you climb a tree as high as you can and look for the trident there. But there is nothing to find, not a single shimmer of gold. As you leave the wooded area, you glance at your watch and see that it is already around 2 in the morning. Perhaps it would be best to take a small break to sleep. But then you realize that your hotel room is too far away from the beach. You don't want to waste time going all the way back. Just as you are wondering what to do next, Crystal starts glowing and flies along the shore. You follow her into a small cave next to the beach. As you look around, you understand why she has brought you here. It is the perfect place to rest for a few hours. You lie down on the sand, and Crystal emits her warmest light yet. You don't feel cold at all inside the cave. It is warm and cozy. The sand is as comfortable as a bed, and you can feel Crystal's glow blanketing you, just like the soft sheets in your hotel room. After a good night's rest, you will be ready to continue your search for the trident. But right now, you are so tired that you can think of nothing but sleep. You close your eyes and take a deep breath in. Your breathing gradually settles into a natural rhythm, just like the waves of the ocean. And soon, you are fast asleep. You wake up slowly. You can feel the sensation of wings brushing your skin. When you open your eyes, you see Crystal flying above you in the form of a glowing firefly. The space is gradually filling with light. From this spot near the cave entrance, you can see that the sun is rising. It is time to wake up. To your surprise, you feel very well rested and ready to continue yesterday's search for Poseidon's trident. When Crystal flies out of the cave, you get up and follow. As you step outside, you see that the sun isn't fully risen yet. Its edges are touching the water, covering it with soft golden shimmers. The sky looks like a canvas that has been painted from bottom to top. Near the horizon, the sun's golden glow resembles orange paintbrush strokes. Orange then transitions to a light yellow, followed by a soft blue. The top part of the sky is like a painting made of deep blue strokes. It is a beautiful sunrise, and it fills you with the hope that comes with the start of a new day. You feel so calm that you stand there for a moment, admiring the view. You also notice that you are surrounded by a pleasing symphony of birds chirping and distant waves rising and falling. As you enjoy this relaxing soundscape, you take a deep breath in. The early morning scent of the beach fills your lungs. You close your eyes, savoring the calming atmosphere. A moment later, Crystal is back at your side, fluttering eagerly. From her movements, you understand that you have to follow her. Crystal guides you to a spot under the trees. The ground is covered with fresh fruit. There are piles of apricots, oranges, and grapes, as well as a big watermelon. Your eyes light up. You thank Crystal and begin to eat. Each bite of fruit seems to melt in your mouth. The apricots are deliciously sweet. The oranges are the juiciest ones you have ever tasted. Then there are the grapes, so soft and sweet. And the big watermelon, which is juicy and refreshing. The strong scents of all the fruits make them taste even better. It isn't just a breakfast, but a banquet. When you have finished, Crystal starts flying toward the sea. At first, you are puzzled. You don't understand what she wants. Then Crystal goes into the water and transforms into her other form, a gorgeous fish. You walk towards the shallows and keep following Crystal. The little fish has started glowing, with wavy rays emanating from her body. Once you are deep enough, you put your face underwater, hoping that you will be able to understand Crystal a little better like this. What you see below the surface is amazing. Crystal's colors are even more vibrant underwater. She is captivating. You gaze at the shades of sparkling blue and green in astonishment. But then you see something even more magnificent. The rays of light that are coming from her body are also glowing, and they point in different directions. At last, you understand. Crystal wants you to explore those different areas of the ocean. But for that, you will need diving gear. Fortunately, you remember that you'd seen a diving school not so far from the shore. Without delay, you rent all the equipment that you need, and in no time, you are back at the ocean where Crystal is floating near the surface. You are ready to begin your search for the trident. You touch one of Crystal's glowing rays to show which direction you think you should go first, and right away, you are both transported to another spot in the ocean. It is just like Poseidon's magical map, with its powers of teleportation. You can see that you are now far from the shore. But you are a trained diver, so you feel comfortable and safe being there. In addition, these waters are particularly clear, and they offer good visibility. As you and Crystal dive to the depths of this area, the light becomes dimmer, but you can still see your surroundings well, thanks to the bright rays of sunlight that penetrate the water. Diving deeper, you come across several marine species, such as eels, tuna, and damselfish. There is even an octopus, which moves its tentacles in such a graceful way. The suction cups that cover the tentacles look like pearls. What an elegant creature, you think. As you get deeper, you and Crystal find bright pink coral reefs. Their detailed patterns and structures make them look like architecture, or a work of art. It is here that you discover your favorite creature, the nudibranch, also commonly known as sea slugs. You love their beautiful mix of exotic and vivid colors. Your favorite nudibranch looks like something painted by a famous artist. It is lime green with canary yellow dots. Its head is decorated with larger, light blue spots surrounded by yellow rings. Although you go diving frequently, all the beauty that you see underwater takes your breath away. You experience this sense of awe every time. You stare at this coral reef and its sea slugs for a while, contemplating the wonders of nature. It is only when Crystal approaches you that you remember what you are there for. You start looking through the reefs but find nothing. You even dive to the very bottom of the area, but when you dig through the sand, you can't see any sign of the golden trident at all. Crystal then emits a new glowing ray. When you touch it, you find yourself suddenly transported to the entrance of an underwater cavern. The smooth teleportation still feels surreal, but you are getting used to it by now. The underwater cavern has wide holes where you can enter and explore. Small, colorful fish swim around this area in groups. You swim slowly so as not to startle them. Once you are inside the cavern, you start looking around. First, you slide your hands across the walls, both inside and outside. Then you dive to the bottom of the cavern and dig through the sand. But again, there is no trident to be found. Crystal swims towards you and emits yet another glowing ray. After touching it, you are surprised to find yourself sitting on the beach. Crystal has turned back into a firefly. But instead of guiding you to the next spot, she just hovers beside you, fluttering in midair. Perhaps she is thinking about where to search next. In the meantime, you take off the diving gear. Just as you have finished, Crystal starts fluttering in front of you, glowing intermittently, like a flashing light. This has to mean something, since Crystal has never glowed like that before. Maybe she knows where the trident is. A moment later, Crystal starts flying along the beach, her wings still flashing. You get up and follow her. As you head into the town, you wonder where Crystal is taking you. When she finally stops hovering in the air, you look around in confusion. Behind you, you can see a parking lot and signs indicating taxis and bus stops. There is also a large building with a ticket stand, as well as souvenirs and food. It looks like a tourist attraction. Then you notice a sign pointing to a set of mysterious caves. Apparently, Crystal wants you to enter these caves. You follow the sign, which indicates that the entrance to the cave is a few steps ahead. Still accompanied by Crystal, you walk down a stone staircase until you come to a short, narrow tunnel. It is a bit dark, but there are handrails that help you walk safely through the tunnel. At the end, you encounter a black metal gate. You try to open it, but it is locked. This doesn't seem to be a problem for Crystal, though. She simply emits a glowing ray of light that travels to the gate. As soon as the glow touches the door, it swings open, and you go through carefully. Once you are on the other side, you stop abruptly, and your eyes widen. This has to be the most beautiful place you have ever seen. You are inside a long cave. Its interior is full of hanging stalactites and stalagmites that emerge from the ground. You know that these formations are deposits of different minerals, and that they often look similar to icicles, but you have never seen them in person. The whole ceiling is covered with ancient stalactites of different widths and lengths. Here, it feels as if time has stood still. There is also a large body of water in the cave. The water is so clear that you can see right to the bottom, and the surface reflects the hanging stalactites on the ceiling. The atmosphere is enhanced by the cave's interior lighting, which has been thoughtfully placed to highlight the natural beauty of the space. The combination of the rock formations, the water, and the lighting makes this place look like a dream. It is mesmerizing. You stand there speechless as you gaze at your surroundings. The atmosphere inside the cave is cool and damp, compared to the summer temperature outside. But to you, it feels wonderfully refreshing. Silence reigns inside the cave, apart from the sound of dripping water. You immerse yourself in the cave's atmosphere with all of your senses. You feel so comfortable and calm as you savor the tranquility of this dreamy place. Closing your eyes, you take a deep breath, determined to remember every single detail of this wonderful yet mysterious cavern. Just then, you feel Crystal's wings fluttering by your ear. This brings you back to the reality of why you are standing there. Crystal's glow is still shining intermittently. Her movements suggest that she wants you to start exploring the cave. You walk slowly and run your hands around the walls. The light brown stone is textured and grooved, and a bit damp. You observe the ceiling carefully, trying to detect any golden shimmers. You keep walking and looking around, but you can't find anything. When you are deeper inside the cave, you notice that Crystal's intermittent glowing has become quicker. There are shorter pauses between each glow. It seems to be acting like a radar, detecting the trident's location. This gives you an idea. As you move around, you can observe how Crystal's glow pattern responds. You see that it becomes slower in some spots, while it pulsates more quickly in other areas. When you get closer to the water, the light flashes even more quickly. This suggests that the trident could very likely be in the water. You carefully step into the pool. It is clear and shallow. Crystal turns into her fish form and swims next to you. Moving forward through the water, you look for any signs of the golden trident. Crystal's rays are still glowing quickly. As the water gets deeper, the cave becomes a bit wider. It isn't just a pool, but a magnificent subterranean lake. You look around in amazement. You could never have imagined that the cave would hide such a treasure. Thankfully, the waters are still as clear as before. Beside you, Crystal is glowing, her rays pulsating even faster. You are sure that the trident has to be somewhere in this lake. Diving down a few meters, you find that the bottom is mostly covered in marine plants. This makes it hard to spot anything that might have sunk to the lake's depths. Some of the plants are short, making it easier to look through them. But the majority are long and leafy. They grow upwards like thin, elongated leaves that dance slowly from side to side. And they are so tall that you have to swim through the leaves, using your hands to separate them, and then reaching down to search the bottom of the lake. As much as you look, you can't find anything. But Crystal's glow is constant now, and you know that the trident has to be near. You swim a bit further, moving closer to the center of the lake. Then you take a deep breath and dive to the bottom. Here, you see a bunch of leaves that are tangled around something. You get closer, and as the leaves move gently with the water's flow, you see a golden shimmer. Right away, you start untangling the leaves with your fingers. Little by little, a staff made of gold reveals itself. Although it looks like an ordinary stick, it has to be Poseidon's missing trident. You grab it and swim back to the surface. Crystal's glow is constant now. She examines the trident for a moment, swimming around it in circles. Then she stops and generates 3 glowing rays that go upwards. They resemble the 3 prongs of a trident. After this, Crystal's glow fades. This can only mean one thing. The staff is indeed Poseidon's golden trident. You feel so happy and relieved. Crystal emits a final glowing ray that points in the direction of the sea. When you touch it, you are both instantly transported to the spot in the ocean where you had first met. Standing tall in the middle of the waves is Poseidon. He is just as you remember him, an impressive, muscular figure with a long, tangled beard. At this time, Poseidon is smiling. You step toward him and place the golden staff in Poseidon's outstretched hands. When it touches the god's fingers, the staff becomes longer, and a 3-pronged structure with sharp points emerges at one end. The trident looks powerful, and in Poseidon's hands, glorious. His loyal companion, Crystal, swims to his side and remains there. "Thank you, Ben," says the god of the sea. "You have proven your bravery, honesty, and skills. And you are more than deserving of the magical parchment." Poseidon retrieves the parchment from the water and gives it to you. As soon as you touch it, you can feel the power emanating from it. "I know you will make good use of this valuable tool," Poseidon says. "But I must leave now." And then he adds, "Good luck on your voyages, Ben." You watch as Poseidon and Crystal start to swim away, further into the ocean. You call out after them, thanking them both for everything. In the distance, Poseidon turns and smiles. Crystal briefly leaps out of the water and twirls in the air before diving down again. You feel reassured that they have both heard you. Now that this adventure has ended, you realize just how tired you feel, in both mind and body. The exhaustion is like a weight. You go back to the hotel and make your way to your room. Here, you feel the peace of your cozy little nest again. After taking a relaxing warm shower, you make yourself comfortable in bed. As you sink into the mattress, you stare at the ceiling, reflecting on all the magical things that you have seen during the last couple of days. You feel completely exhausted, but at the same time, you are deeply grateful that you'd had the chance to meet Poseidon and to help him with something so important. You are also grateful for the time that you had spent with such a magnificent creature as Crystal. You feel truly fulfilled. A feeling of deep relaxation runs through your body. As you think of the magical parchment, you imagine all the adventures that you will be able to experience with its help. Traveling from one ocean to another. And little by little, you peacefully drift off to sleep. And now, our grand epic of wondrous adventures and magical encounters has finally reached its destination. Let all the distant stories and fantastical feelings that we have experienced together gradually settle, becoming a quiet and warm foundation deep within your heart. You feel safe. You feel understood. And you feel filled with an infinite curiosity and love for this world. In this final, complete peace, full of goodwill and magic, allow your body and your mind to receive the most perfect, the most final, the most eternal rest. Good night, my dear friend. Our journey is now complete. It is time, now, to enter your own, most peaceful, most sweet dreamland. Sleep now. Rest assuredly, and sleep.